Good morning. Good morning, Madhvi. Hare Krishna. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
We're just gathering, so we'll let people just gather through for a little while and then we will start the session. Hope everyone had a great week and it was nourishing. Hare Krishna Jay, good morning. Thank you for joining. We just give 1 more minute to devotees to join and then we will start the session. Okay, I make it 3 minutes past, so I think we should make a start. Thank you everybody for coming back for our second session of Bhakti Life course. Welcome. As I was saying to others, I hope you had a wonderful week and it was nourishing. You were able to maybe somehow practice some of the things that we talked about last week. We started our Bhakti Life course with an introduction to Bhakti Life, as well as the first session, which we covered the 2 steps. Unfortunately, today, Mahatmika just messaged me that yesterday she was all ready to come and give us the introduction recap, but unfortunately, she's not feeling this so well this morning, because she's unable to join us, and same with a couple of other devotees, but that's okay. We'll still carry on. And we have Madhvi, we have Ansali and Jay as well to join us. So thank you. So yeah, today we are very, very fortunate that we're going to have Madhvi. She's going to tell us about a little bit of a recap about the first part that we covered. In the introduction, as you may recall, last week, did you all get the recording and the slides? Was it okay?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, were they okay? They were audible, everything was fine?
Yeah, it was
Okay,
okay.
wonderful. Wonderful, great. So yeah, you are able to sort of go through that. Last week we talked about some questions that we asked you in the introduction section. Why do you think people practice religion and come to temple? We also talked about why people stop, what stops people from taking up religion and spirituality on a deeper level. We went through some of the challenges like, personal discipline or difficult to implement in their lives or some self-doubt, etc. And then we talked about 4 motivations behind religious practice. Does anybody remember what those 4 motivations were about practicing religion? Why do we practice religion? What's our key 4 motivations? Talked about in the introduction last week. Why do we practice religion? What's the purpose? Anything? Okay. So yeah, one of them was fear, out of fear. Some people think, oh, if I don't do something, I'm going to get spited by the Lord or by God. He's going to be angry with me. That's one thing. Other thing is through material desires. Of course, we go to Lord, please give us our daily bread. Um, and make my business successful or help my children pass their exams and all of those kind of things, material desires. Uh, Others, the third reason is out of duty. We feel, okay, our culture is like this, that we go to temple, we are duty bound to serve the Lord, so we do it out of duty. But ultimately, as we know, and George Harrison also says this in the Krishna book, he's written it down, that it's only love that actually conquers the heart of Krishna himself. So out of love and out of developing love for Krishna, we actually go and serve him unconditionally like that. So those are the four reasons we went through those things. Then we actually went through the 9 stages of bhakti, 9 stages of devotional practice, starting off with the first stage, which is, what was the first stage of devotional practice? There are 9 different stages that we went through. Come on, guys. This is the easy one. These are easy ones. Come on, you can do it. What's the first thing that actually makes you do anything in life? You got to have some. Starts with F.
Faith. We got to have some faith.
You got to have some faith. Yes, you got to have some faith. That's in Sanskrit. It's called Shraddha. Shraddha means that it is an ingrained faith that, yes, if I do this, this is really going to make a massive impact and actually help me in my life. So faith is everything. If you are going to go and study in university, you have to have faith, because either your parents have told you, you got to be a doctor, you got to be a lawyer, you got to be an engineer. I'm just talking about the Indian families now, because it's usually the case. Doctor, lawyer, engineer, or nowadays IT. If you're Indian, what's your profession? I'm in IT. Oh yeah, surprise, surprise. It's like that. So you gotta have some faith. Somebody would have said to you, you do this and you'll be happy and successful in life. You'll have lots of money. And so that's it. Then you say, okay, I'm going to get lots of money. I'm going to do this. So you got to have the faith. Initial part is the faith. And similarly in Krishna consciousness, we have to have a degree of faith as to why we're doing it. What's the purpose behind doing something? Now, as we do get that faith, then the next thing is we have to go somewhere to sort of reinsure our faith. And so when we go somewhere, what happens? What is it that we do to increase our faith? What is it that we need to do? What happens naturally that we come in contact with? It starts with A. It's the A, B, C, D, E of Bhakti.
Association.
Association. Sadhu, Sangha, association. Yes. So association, when we go through, develop our faith, when we go through association, we actually go through and develop further faith, because we see others who are practicing and we see that they are also developing that culture and that promise. So this is what happens. These are the 9 stages we went through. This is like a ladder of devotional service. And this is as we climb through. And as you can see in the diagram here on the right, we go through all of those aspects. So this is the key aspects of faith: association, practice, purification, steadiness, taste, attachment, ecstatic love, and pure love. This is the practice. This is our nine-step process of devotion. So this is the basics of devotional practice. And you may remember last time I said that this is not linear, it's more cyclical. The more we do certain things, the more we associate, the more faith we get. The more we practice, the more association we get, the more faith we get. The more purification we get, the more we practice, the more purification we get, the more association we get, the more faith we get, like that. And so that it continues like that. Okay, wonderful. So that's basically the introduction where we're at. Now we're going to go into the part 1 of our discussions where we cover 3 steps. And we're very, very fortunate Madhu is going to take us through that. Is that okay, Madhu, still?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, wonderful. And it's just going to be 5 minutes. It's not going to be more. I'm not deliberately being a miser by just giving you 5 minutes, because if we just take short period of time, then we are focused and we can get through it quite quickly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, Prabhu. So the first part discusses about me and Krishna, or Krishna and me. So this part discusses mainly various ways how we can build or develop our connection or relationship with Krishna. And it mainly focuses on 3 aspects, which is conversation with God, uncommon sense, and active devotion. In conversation with God, it mainly focuses on chanting and japa. It is said that Krishna is fully present when we chant Krishna's name. And you took us through quickly through why chant in the first place. So it is said in the Shastras that Krishna comes millennium after millennium to establish the principles of dharma and teach us how we can reestablish connection with him. And in this age of Kali, so we are in Kali Yuga right now. In this age of Kali, Lord Chaitanya, who's Krishna himself, in the mood of Radharani, appeared in 1400s and inaugurated a simple and an easy way of having conversation with Krishna. He declared that anyone can chant at any time, any place, any circumstances without any qualification. So in various yugas, there are various ways how we can connect to God. And in this Kali Yuga, Sankirtan is the way to establish connection with Krishna. And then you took us through why Hare Krishna mantra, because there are various mantras available. So why Hare Krishna mantra? So because Vedic scriptures state that all mantras and processes of self-realization is compressed within the Hare Krishna mantra itself, and therefore it is known as the Maha Mantra. And when is the best time to chant? So early hours in the morning, or the Brahma Muhurta, which is 1.5 hours before sunrise. That is the best time for japa meditation, since mind is peaceful, it's not distracted, the environment is very quiet, and the body is well rested. So this is the best time to chant. And then you took us through the meaning of Maha Mantra. You know, there are 3 words in Maha Mantra, and there's Hare, Krishna, and Rama. So Hare could mean either Hari, which is Lord Krishna himself, or Srimati Radharani, who's the pleasure potency of Krishna. Krishna means all attractive, and Rama means reservoir of all pleasure. So it basically means, oh Radharani, please engage us in the service of Rama and Krishna. So that is the first part, which is a conversation with God through chanting and through japa. Then the second part was uncommon sense, and this mainly focuses on reading Vedic scriptures. So you took us through various things that we do very spontaneously or naturally without having to think much, like taking a bath in the morning. So great sages, they explain that just as we bathe in water every day to cleanse our body, we should similarly bathe in the words of the sacred texts on a daily basis to cleanse our consciousness. And then you took us through the metaphors in Bhagavad Gita, which Krishna explains, uses 4 metaphors to emphasize on the value and power of reading Vedic scriptures. The first one was comparing the knowledge to Agni, or fire, which is known as Jnana Agni, the fire of knowledge. So basically what happens is we enter this world with a karmic bank balance, and the whole purpose of karma is educational, for us to learn something. But if we read the scriptures, then we can gather this transcendental knowledge. And if we incorporate this into our daily life, then such karma is no longer required. So it is said that thus the knowledge acts as a fire, and it burns our karmic reactions. So that is why it's comparing as Jnana Agni, or fire of knowledge. Then the second one was Jnana Deepena, or the lamp of knowledge. You know, like it is said that knowledge is compared to deep, or light, the lamp of knowledge. So what happens, like if we walk in the dark, then we can, if we walk in the dark, then it is dangerous, and we can struggle, we can stomp on things like that. But the lamp of knowledge, it illuminates, or it lights up our way, and it keeps our consciousness awake, and helps us to reach the ultimate goal of life, which is to reach the abode of Krishna. And the third comparison is comparing to a boat, gyan to boat, the boat of knowledge, gyana plava. So world can be compared to an ocean in this case, where there's, like, it's just as there are various waves in ocean, in the life we can go through various misfortunes and sufferings. But spiritual knowledge, it helps us to, it is compared to a boat that helps us to carry through the hardship. So yeah, so that is that. And then lastly, it is compared as to sword. The knowledge is compared to sword, which is known as Jnana Asina, the sword of knowledge. In our spiritual journey, we can develop various doubts, like, why am I here? Why am I doing this? Am I missing out on something? Doubts develop. So what the knowledge does is it helps to cut the doubts, and helps one remain very determined and enthusiastic in the spiritual journey. Then lastly, we talked about active devotion. Active devotion is offering some practical services. Here you showed us that how everything is interlinked, like, you can't, in bhakti life, you can't be still, or you just can't keep contemplating. So the whole purpose of chanting and studying the Vedic scriptures, this could give rise to vigorous and practical activities which is dedicated to God. And in the spiritual world, everybody is busily engaged in serving Krishna, and Krishna serves his devotees similarly. So we don't have to wait to reach the spiritual world. We can start the journey here itself, wherever we are, whether it's in the house, whether it's in the temple, or in the outer world. We can do some sort of active devotion. In the house, this can be in the form of offering food, or performing arti, or doing remote services. In the temple, it can be cooking, car parking, or using whatever talents we have in serving Krishna. And in the world, we can carry out spiritual work. We can spread the knowledge of Krishna like that. And such devotional services helps to build a personal connection with Krishna. Yeah, and helps us progress in bhakti.
Wow, wonderful. Wonderful. That's so nice. It's so thorough. I'm just so impressed. Come on, everyone give
Thank you.
great accolades to Madhvi for a wonderful recap. And yeah, it's even like your narrations of how you went through each of the analogies of knowledge. So nice. You talked about Jnana Sina, Jnana Plava, like that, Dipena. So it's very nice, how the lamp of knowledge illuminates, and how it actually removes darkness or ignorance, because light actually removes darkness or ignorance, like that. Very nice. Thank you so much. Well done. How did you feel after you prepared? Did you feel that it actually imbibed within you more?
Yeah, and like when you were giving when you're giving the class, like, we think that we are grasping everything, but I realize that it's very important to revise as well, because there's so much of information in that class. So yeah, revising is, I think very important.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, because it really embeds within us. And when we have to be put in a position to tell others or do a recap, we have to revise and we have to go through that. And it may be painful at the beginning, but just 20 minutes of even revision will actually help you to grasp some of this knowledge. And you've taken out the time, you've paid for this course. So I want you to make the most out of the course. That's why I ask you to do this. So thank you. Thank you so much. So it's very, very nice and very thorough. I really enjoyed that.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay, wonderful. Uh, okay, so we're going to start the next session. Let me just open that slide. Here we are. So I'll just share that. And then next session, today's session is, let me just go through part 2. And Can everybody see the slide? Yeah. Okay. So this is where we are, part 2. Today's session, we got another 4 parts after this. So that's there. And we'll start with prayers. And I should have actually started with prayers first, but I was so excited for Madhuri to tell us her recap that I went over that. So let's do that together. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Scha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaurabhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Prabhupada ki jai. So next week, I'll ask one of you to lead that Mangalachar and Pranam mantras like I just did, and then everybody would follow. And we will also go through the translation like that. But I'm expecting you to also revise this because the more you make this part of your life, the more you're gonna actually have access to auspiciousness and the spiritual energies. So wherever you are, whatever you're doing, whether it's at work, whether you're going out for some sporting activity, whatever it might be, you can just mentally, very quickly do the Mangalacharan, even if it's just the first one, Mangalacharan itself and Prabhupada Pranam mantra, it will bring about auspiciousness and blessings from these personalities like that. So it's very powerful. Okay, part 2, me and my home. Today we're going to cover three next topics, next steps, which is karma-free food, sacred space, and family affairs. So we're going to cover those items. And then at the end, I'll ask somebody else to recap the session for next week like that. So be attentive, try and take notes if you can, like that. Okay. All right, so a sacred space is a very, very amazing aspect of your home. You may already have a sacred space of your own within where you live. It could be in a form of a small altar. It could be an entire room. It could be a big, magnificent altar. It could be just a couple of pictures, whatever your sacred space may be. Everybody needs to have this kind of a space in their life so that they can have a place where they can go to practice their spirituality. I don't know whether in the UK or elsewhere you've been to an embassy. How many of you been to another country's embassy? Like in UK in the 2000, I remember in 2002 was my first visit to India because I was actually born in East Africa. My mother and I, my parents and I were born in East Africa. My grandparents came from India to East Africa in Tanzania. And I remember in 2002, I went to an Indian embassy, which was in central London. Nowadays, you go to a visa office to get your visas. So I remember when we went to this Indian embassy in Aldwych. It was in Aldwych, based in Aldwych, called Bush House previously. I remember it was very bustling, uh, like a busy roundabout near Aldwych. But when I entered inside the embassy, it felt like it was an amazing transformation, as if I was walking into a different environment altogether. I was walking into a place where people were just, rustling around. There was nice aromas. There was incense burning. There was people and like you thought, okay, they'd be queuing up, but no, you queue up and then somebody will come in front of it, and then they're talking to the clerk, and it looked and smelled just like as if I was in India. I was in this embassy, but I was in India. It's like it was like really transformative, and so it's like that. Prabhupada also said that actually our temples all around the world are the embassy to the spiritual world. And so, similarly, like that, when you have a sacred space in your home, you are actually accessing the spiritual world because Prabhupada is there, Krishna is there. You are then entering a space where you're leaving behind your material baggage and you're entering into a place where you can go and actually it's a sacred space. There's no like rubbish hanging around. It is just very nice place where you can go and meditate. So like that. So let me ask you a question. What is the main thing that one has to do to make a home into a temple? What is it that they will need to do to transform their home into temple?
I think first of all, you have to think about it, and then cleanliness, I think.
Very good. Yes, you got to have the consciousness. You have the right consciousness. You think about it and you say, yes, how can I make my area, my sacred space, pure? So cleanliness is one thing, definitely, and the right consciousness to recreate a temple at home. So if you actually go to a temple, you would actually then see that in that temple there is the consciousness, there is the sounds, there is the aromas, there is the feeling of the uh, area that you're entering. It automatically instantly gives you some moment, some peaceful moment, isn't it? So when you enter that space, yes, you got to have like a shrine where you have sacred space, where you have different things that are going on. So different activities happen in this sacred space. What sort of activities happen in this sacred space? So like something like music, like you can see here in this picture, they have an altar, there's kirtan going on, there is different pictures there. There's Radha and Krishna in the center. That's their focus point. So there's a focal point of the room, and there is something nice going on. There's sound vibration. There would be incense burning. There's aromas. There's flowers. It's very pleasing. So when you enter a place like this, automatically it feels like, yes, I've entered a different space. My consciousness is completely different to when I was before. So that's what it needs to do. So spiritual world is a place where Krishna is the center of everything. Material world is a place where I am the center of everything. So the spiritual world is a place of selflessness, and the material world is a place where generally selfishness is predominant, isn't it? So like that, um, it is therefore in this world, everyone is thinking about themselves, actually, if we think about it. They're placing, generally, they are in the center, right? And so, therefore, sometimes when you throw a stone in a pond, if everybody throws a stone in the pond, it'll make so many circles that you won't see where the center is. The circles will start to clash. But, and this is similar to life, when everybody wants to be the center, there's going to be conflict in the world. Right now, we are seeing that. There's so many wars going on because everybody wants to be the ruler of this world. But ultimately, if we actually, like in the spiritual world, put Krishna in the center, therefore a home becomes a temple, becomes very, very tranquil. You're no longer clashing. The centers are no longer clashing. There's one pointed center, and everybody is sort of pointed towards that center and then moving towards the center like that. Therefore, in Sanskrit, one of the words for home is bhavan, isn't it? Where Ba stands for Bhagavan and Van stands for forest. So Bhavan means that a forest where God resides. And within a forest where God resides, it's all peaceful and tranquil. But if you remove Ba out of Van, then you're left with only forest, where only a variety of animals live who are fighting. Isn't it? And arguing with each other, and everyone is like, complaining, competing against each other like that, and so the forest isn't a very peaceful place, but rather a very dangerous place without the center. So it is said that any place with Bhagwan actually becomes a very without Bhagwan rather becomes very unpeaceful and dangerous place. But when therefore it is essential that Krishna should be the center of our home, like that. So then people naturally become very, very peaceful and calm and pointed towards that center. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya, he came over 500 years ago, as we discussed last week. He instructed his disciples, Lord Nityananda and Namacharya Haridas Thakur, in this specific verse. He said, Prati gare gare giya, kare ek bhiksha, bolo Krishna, bhajo Krishna, karo Krishna siksha. And this means in Bengali, go to every house and beg in this way. Chant the names of Krishna. Worship Krishna. Follow Krishna's instructions. This is from Chaitanya Bhagavat, Canto 2, Chapter 13, verse 9. And so this is what Lord Chaitanya was actually asking Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur to do, to ask the householders to do three things. Bolo Krishna, chant Krishna's names. Bhaja Krishna, do some service for Krishna. And Karo Krishna, Siksha, and read Krishna's instructions as given in the literature like Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam, etc. like that. Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, etc. like that. So these are the activities that need to be done in a house. And essentially, we have already talked about this in our previous section, as Madhvi nicely recapped in today's session. In the last two steps, we have already talked about chanting, reading, and active service, isn't it? We often think that these things are for the temple, but actually, they are things that to be done at home, which is actually what makes a home into a temple when Krishna is in the center, like that. So these are the three steps we're talking about in today's session. Prasadam, or karma-free food, having a sacred space, and how to conduct family affairs in such a way that it enhances and improves our Krishna consciousness, as well as our relationships with everyone in the family, like that. So I'm going to jump to having a sacred space first, because that's actually in that way order we're going to do it. We're going to go to sacred space first, and we'll come back to karma food and karma-free food later. Okay? All right. So home into a temple, what is a mandir? So one of the key aspects of one of the most thing, okay, so let me just go into that in a minute. One of the most important things that we can do in our home is to make it into a temple, is to have a sacred space in our home. I'm sure, do everybody has like a sacred space in your home? Do everybody have that at the moment?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anseli, Jay, you're very quiet.
Yes.
You have? Okay, wonderful. That's good. That's good to know. So then it'd be easier for us to understand. We won't spend so much time about setting it up like that. We're just going to go and we'll just sort of whiz through those ideas. But then if you have any questions, you can stop me and we will go and answer those things. Yeah.
Well, specifically a general Hindu sacred space, rather than.
Okay, it's like a general Hindu sacred space. Okay, great. So then we can make it more like a Krishna conscious sacred space. Wonderful. Okay. So this sacred space or the temple at home or an altar or mandir is a very, very important space. One of the most important practices is to invite the form of a deity, Krishna into a form of a deity. We also find this in many homes that Krishna is there in his murti or deity form. So this concept of inviting or welcoming Krishna in his form as a murti or a deity is very important. Important aspect, especially for those who are living outside of the temple. So we're all living outside of the temple. So it's very important to welcome or invite Krishna into his deity form. For those who are living in the temple where you already have a form that you're worshipping, so like I used to be in the ashram at Bhaktivedanta Manor for 6.5 years, and we had Radha Gokulananda at Sword Street Temple, we have Radha Landaneshwar like that. Jagannath Balada, Subhadra, Gaurnita, Giraj, etc. But for those not living in a temple, it is said that to have a deity form of Krishna that we worship is very, very essential aspect of making a home a sacred space. And you see, in a temple, there's already something called a special invitation ceremony that has been done, which we'll talk about in a minute. But before we move on, I wanted to ask you a question. So we already said that a mandir is a space where the mind becomes calm. Now let's talk about the deity worship and the importance of worshipping a deity form of Krishna. Yeah. We also just discussed about why we put Krishna in the center, because everything obviously otherwise becomes a jungle, and we don't want to live in a jungle. We're just fighting. For older generation, it is easier actually to know about this aspect of this tradition and culture of having a sacred space, because you see, it was passed down generation after generation. As Jay said, it's just a Hindu mandir that we have at the moment. It's not just, it's a space, it's a nice space, because it's at least a space where the family traditions and culture has brought up to be in that way. So we are very lucky that in this, at least on this course, everybody is in that space kind of thing, right? So it doesn't become like alien. What is this thing in the corner? Like, what is this room where everybody goes to, or some people go to just like space out? So, the young generation may be thinking that. You may have children and may be saying, yeah, I know this is my parents go and do this. My parents go to the altar and then they pray and this kind of thing. I don't know whether that's for me. It's not somehow it becomes a little bit alien to them because they're not used to that sort of culture, whereas because of the Western upbringing like that. So we will touch on that a little bit also. So let me ask you a question, which is on here. Inviting deities. Can God have a form? We'll look at whether God can have a form or not shortly. Also, we'll look at idol worship or ideal worship. Deity worship actually is very, very advanced. It's a very powerful form of way of connecting with Krishna. And maybe the reason why people don't actually appreciate it because the knowledge is not there, or the form of deity worship is not taken as so important, especially in the younger generation, or those who are not sort of like Eastern minded, they're more Western minded, like that, the different cultures. So don't see it as important. For example, the analogy given in this scenario is that if you give somebody a book who can't read, they'll see, okay, I've taken the book, but look, I can't really read, so it's not really that important to me. I can just flick through the book and then, yeah, look at some pictures and then leave it away. But if you gave a book to somebody who has the knowledge about the book and they can read and they're interested, they'll immediately take it and they want to read it. So it's almost like that, between having an ideal, a deity, or not having a deity like that, So one writer has said that when you give somebody a book, you're not just giving them ink and paper, but you are giving them a whole new opportunity about a brand new life. And so when you have some knowledge about English, about grammar, and then you have huge potential about gaining knowledge, isn't it? But when you don't have knowledge, it's just like a physical object, like I just said about this example of a book. So then the next question is, well, which deities? Like, Jay Prabhu said that it's a Hindu temple, altar, which means it'll contain all varieties of deities, all varieties of demigods, isn't it? Is that right, Jay? You have varieties of demigods on your altar?
Yes, well, pictures, yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah, small metallic murtis as well, yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. So this is the thing. So then the natural question is, well, which deities? So similarly, the deity for people who don't have the knowledge, the right type of knowledge, the deity just looks like a statue to them. It's just a statue, it's this high, it's made of such and such a material or substance, it has this kind of artistic features and so on. And apart from that, it doesn't really go much deeper than that. And therefore, they might think that, well, what's this got to do with spirituality, perhaps? And similarly, those who are alien to the sacred space or an altar, they may see it as a similar sort of mentality, in that as soon as they understand the knowledge and the philosophy behind it, then you can imagine, you can begin to actually start interacting with the form of the Lord and start having a completely different experience and a completely different transformation of your consciousness, like that, And so knowledge is very, very important. And so today we'll look at a bit about what is this knowledge behind the deity worship itself. Yeah. So can God have a form? This is a perennial philosophical debate that not only between religions that people have been having, between Vedic traditions that have been debated over, but between varieties of generations, acharyas and previous acharyas and incarnations have been allowing people to debate over and over again. Different religions have different viewpoints on a form. But in the Vedic traditions, you know that we have two major schools of thought. Anybody know these two major schools of thought in the Vedic teachings? What they're known as? Anybody have an idea? Two aspects. Okay, the one is called Dvaita, which means dual, and the other one is called Advaita, which means one. Yeah. Dvaita, this is me and there is God. There is me and there is God. I am eternally me and God is eternally God, and we have a relationship. Put the hand up. Oh, somebody says something on the chat. Does deity mean a murti or can it be a picture too? Yeah, a deity can be an actual statue and a picture is just a picture, it's a photo. Yeah, like that. Deity is actually a statue, like a murti, yes. Thank you for that question. So Dvaita it means dual. There is me and there is God. I am eternally me and God is eternally God. And we have a relationship like that. Advaita, because when you put something like a in front of any Sanskrit term, it negates it or makes it opposite. So Advaita means one. Instead of dual, it means one. So this is a concept that I am me, you are you, but that is all going on in the material world. But when we all realize our true spiritual essence, then we all merge into the oneness. And therefore, this is the philosophy of oneness. That is the point of liberation. That is the point of moksha. We all merge into the light or the oneness, which is the alternative philosophy, an alternative to what we are talking about. Interestingly, both of these schools of thought engage in deity worship, actually. For the school of thought, Advaita, deity worship is something that helps you to develop your spirituality. But when you reach a mature stage, then you realize but we are all God anyway. And at that point, you don't need to worship the deity anymore because you are the deity. You are God. They say, Tattvam Asi, I am that. In the school of thought of Advaita, Dvaita, they engage in deity worship. But here, deity worship is not just like it's not just the sadhana or something we just use to get to a perfectional stage. Here, at the Dvaita stage, the deity worship is actually the means and the end. Because even at the end, we also are relating to Krishna and serving Krishna in a more of an eternal way, in a loving way, like a servant does, like that, you know. So this is a debate that has been going on for generations, for thousands of years. Can God really have a form? And so Dvaita is a personal school of philosophy, and Advaita is the impersonal school of philosophy. We, Krishna consciousness, and Srila Prabhupada was very, very much against us, guarding against the impersonal nature of Krishna consciousness. So we don't, promote that part because we know we are here to develop a genuine relationship, and we will cover the reasons why we do that, the common arguments in a minute. So the conception of the Bhagavad Gita and the conception of the Vaishnava teachers is that God is both personal and impersonal. However, the personal form of God is the original, the most advanced, and the most intimate manifestation of God, like that. Every other manifestation of God comes from the personal, and then we have that analogy of the train. I don't know whether you've heard the analogy of a train before. Have you heard the analogy of a train?
Yes.
Wait, you have?
Yes.
Wonderful. So it talks about, what is a train? There's three people trying to look for the train, and a sage says, okay, go and find out what does a train look like. The first person goes away. He goes in in the nighttime, early doors. He sees a light. He comes back and says, yes, a train is a light. The next person goes and waits a little bit longer, and he sees the engine and the steam, and he says, oh yeah, the train is, he comes back and says the train is a light, it's an engine and the steam. And then the third person goes away and looks at the train, the engine, the carriages, people coming out, and he understands the full thing, the full picture. It says actually the train is all of those things. So similarly here, we are not just interested in the impersonal form of the Lord, we're interested in the Paramatma form of the Lord, and we're interested in the Bhagwan form of the Lord. So this is why the Lord has not only one feature, he comes into three different features: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagwan. Brahman is the effulgence of the Lord, the light, which is beyond this material world. Paramatma is the one who resides within us, the super soul, in four-handed form of Vishnu. And Bhagwan, who is Krishna himself, is the ultimate realization of the Lord, like that. So he comes in three different features, not just one. So yes, not only can he have form, he can have personal and impersonal form, like that. So someone may say, matter is like limiting. These are the common arguments that we often get. Matter is limiting, matter is impure. Why not worship the universe? Okay, these are good arguments. Yes, of course. But yeah, we can do. How can we limit God into a form? Somebody may say matter is limiting. The only reason we do this is that we say is because we have a form. We have two arms, two legs, two eyes, two ears. Therefore, we project that on God. These are some of the arguments that they're saying. So why should God be limited like us? God is unlimited, and so you cannot put an image or a form on God. And so matter and form is limiting, therefore, God cannot have a form. Right? Is that a good argument? What do we think? What do we think about that? Jay, Ansali, Madhavi, what do we think? Do you think that's a good argument by some of the philosophers who says matter itself is limiting? So why put the Lord in a sort of like a material statue? Why are we limiting Lord inside the statue? Why are we confining him in a wooden or a metal or a stone statue? What do we think? Any thoughts?
I think that's a good argument.
Yeah.
But I think he's beyond the conception of our material mind. So he's much more than that.
Very good point. Yes, very good point. Yes, although matter may be limiting, but when the divine enters matter, it no longer is matter. You're very right. He's beyond the matter itself. It's called this philosophy. There's a philosophy known as anthropomorphism. Anthropomorphism. Let me write that down because then you can see it all. Anthropomorphism. Morphism. Long word. This is a kind of a phenomena that many philosophers talk about. It's where we look at our lives, we look at our situation, and then we project that onto God. And we say, and because this is my experience, this is what I'm like, therefore God is like that. We are made in the image of God, but they say that we are making God in the image of ourselves, which is actually the wrong way around. If we are saying, yeah, God made us in our image, and then we are then saying, oh, yeah, but if we are like this, then God must also be like that. Well, that's not really true, because we are limited by the material confinement. The Lord God is not material. He's entirely spiritual. And therefore, we can't limit his experiences. So therefore, this is why it's called anthropomorphism. And this is why it's really convoluted argument. So actually, they are limiting God in that way because they're saying matter is limiting. Actually, they are limiting God because, as we said, the Lord cannot be matter. He's all spiritual. As soon as he touches anything matter, in fact, he never touches matter. But anyway, he enters into a material thing, it becomes spiritual. So it starts actually reciprocating, which I'll tell you some stories about how deities reciprocate and like that, So in that argument, they're actually limiting God in that argument in itself. So when they say actually the person saying God can't have form is doing the limiting, because God is God because he can do anything, including take a form, enter into matter, glance, change matter into different substance. He can feel from any part of his being because he's all spiritual. He's not restricted to just eat from the mouth and see from the eyes. We are in matter restricted from seeing from the eyes and eating from the mouth, for example, and hearing from the ear. Whereas he can do all of those aspects because he's completely spiritual. Right? Okay. So matter is not actually limiting. God is everything within our perception and everything beyond, and so he can manifest himself in any way he chooses. And it's interesting that just because something has a form, it doesn't mean that it makes it formless. It makes it unlimited. Something has a form, it doesn't make it's just confined within the form. It actually makes it unlimited, especially when a spirit enters into that form. Yeah, it's an important philosophical point. For example, this room where I'm in, or wherever you're sitting in a room, it's made up of bricks and it has certain form. Now, if I say suddenly that the room is broken by a bomb and it all goes down and falls down onto the pavement below, into a pile of bricks and rubble, does that mean which it no longer has a form? just because it's turned into some sort of a rubble, formless, has it changed? No, it is just having it change from a form to become limited to become unlimited. It's in an unlimited, disorganized way, isn't it? Before it was in a form of a square. Now it's still a form, but it's in a different form. Do you see the difference between form and limited and unlimited forms? So this is actually the many aspect. The other argument that there is on the screen here, matter is impure. Sometimes people say God is the supreme, pure, and he's completely spiritual. Yeah. How can you represent him through matter? Because he's spiritual, he's completely pure. This is just material, it's impure. Matter is impure. So this is another argument. Again, like I said, spirit goes beyond matter. Again, this doesn't make much logical sense because in actuality, when the Lord, like I said before, when he enters matter, it completely turns into spiritual. It becomes so pure that it cannot be impure. There is also various mantras that are said when a specific material is chosen. According to Shastras, there's specific type of wood. If it's a wood deity, specific type of stone, a specific type of metal that needs to be chosen in order to actually have the deity form of the Lord. Yeah, it can't just be made of any old materials aspect. Yeah. So Krishna is within everything, and everything is within is actually Krishna's energy. But that doesn't mean that we worship everything like we worship the deity, because Krishna has said in the scriptures that I will come down in the form to accept worship, and therefore it must be made in an authorized form. Like I said, specific wood, metal, or stone, like that, you know.
Do you know which specific woods and which specific metals?
Yes, so obviously marble, stones, black or white, the copper, bell metal, specific bell metal. The wood is not just any old wood like chip wood or anything like that. Specific type of teak wood is good, or there are other types of wood that are also listed in the scriptures, and that we accept like that.
A lot of metallic multis are made of, was it brass or is it or something?
Bell metal.
Well,
Yeah, bell metal or copper murti, brass murtis are okay. But
okay.
generally, if you go to Rajasthan or any of those places, or go to a bona fide murti walas, they will actually be able to tell you also.
What about the ones that sell in the UK? Would they be?
Yeah, they usually come from these places. Generally, you can take a pujari along with you or somebody who knows from the scriptures.
So it's
You can
only,
go to like Wembley, Poppet store,
yeah.
like that. And then, yeah, I mean, you don't want to just be conned into buying any old metal
There's a
murti.
place in Leicester as well.
Yeah, okay. Which places are there?
Well, there's one place in Leicester where you have to go into a basement, down on the like place.
Yes,
It's one or two places in Birmingham as well. Or it's Go Hill in Birmingham.
right. Wonderful. So usually these places, they would have got their deities from a genuine source. You can ask them. You can ask them, where did you get your deities from? Usually either from Rajasthan, Jaipur, South India. They're all okay. Yeah. If you're buying marble, if you're buying metal, like that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So why not worship the universe? That's another argument. We could, instead of worshiping a deity form, because matter is impure, one just worship the universe. We don't buy that argument because, again, it goes into this impersonalism that we talked about earlier. So then the question may also occur that how does matter transform into spirit? How does it actually work? So you say Krishna comes, he comes into a form. How does it exactly work? that Krishna actually takes presence in that form. So different deities are made with different materials, as we've just talked about. But in the ideal sense, deities and worshipping Krishna is in this way is done according to strict regulation. So the first thing is that there are scriptures that describe Shilpa Shastra is called, describes the carving of the deity itself, which talk about the form of the deity, his features, how Krishna looks, what is the deity constructed as, even to the details of the dimensions of the deity and many other things like that in the Shilpa Shastras. All these details are given in those things. So Krishna actually explains in the scriptures how the deity form should be manufactured. In the Shastras, it talks about variety of constructions in a certain way, especially if it's in a temple. There's varieties of things that happens. It's not just a whimsical activity that is done, okay, whimsically create a deity. It's actually a serious regulation. Then the construction of the deity is brought into a ceremony. A ceremony is performed where Krishna is invited to take presence or residence within the deity. And this ceremony is known as Pran Pratishta ceremony. Prana Pratishta. And we see this often when temples first open. I don't know whether you've attended any Pran Pratishta ceremonies. I think attended once or seen it on TV once. Actually, recently when Lord Ram in Ayodhya, Lord Ramachandra in Ayodhya was inaugurated by Narendra Modi, they were doing the Pran Pratishta ceremony. You may have seen that. Lord Ramachandra's deity form. And then finally, what happens is that through the devotion and the service that is offered to the deity, then Krishna is more and more manifest. Krishna reciprocates with love of his devotees. So if one worships the deity with great love, with great attention, great devotion, then Krishna actually reciprocates and shows that he is present within the deity itself. Yeah. Like that. And so this is the process of how material is transformed into spiritual object. An object is which God is manifesting in his presence. And actually he comes in this world from the spiritual world in that way, like that, you know. So on this picture, on the slide, what do you see? Do you see anything? Not a trick question. Do you see some bright colors and some squares and triangles, or do you see something?
Is it a peacock feather? I'm not sure.
Close, yeah. You could easily say it is a peacock, but there's a form of a lady. You can see sort of like her face is here. There's her nose, her eyes are there, and her hand is here like that. Her shoulders. Can you see it now?
Yeah.
So it's like a form appearing. Her other hand is there like that. Yeah. So you see, when we try to see the form, it can naturally appear to us. So let's look at now the other face. We can also take the view from the other face. The Bible says in Exodus, Genesis, and other scriptures in the Bible, under his feet, inscribed within the finger of God, the hand of the Lord, the eyes of the Lord, the ears of the Lord. God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female, he created them. So one time I was at home just doing different things, and the knock came on the door, and I had the Jehovah's Witnesses come to visit me. Have you had the Jehovah's Witnesses come to visit you before? Have you met them? And they're actually very nice people. They believe in Jehovah, which is the Christian faith. And they were talking to him about how Jehovah is going to come and save me in this material world, and he's going to make this material world, earthly world, into a spiritual world, and we're going to live here eternally and very, very happily. And so my question to them was, do they pray? Do Jehovah's Witnesses, do they pray? I said, yes, of course we pray. Okay, so does Jehovah listen to your prayers? Because yes, he listens to our prayers. So, okay, how does he listen to his prayer? That means he has ears. Because yes, he must have ears. Okay, so his ear must be attached to a head. Otherwise, these ears are just hanging around in the in thin air, just listening. But they must be attached to a head. So basically, through that discussion, I was coming to the point that actually there'll be a form of Jehovah, but they were sort of like hesitant in accepting that argument. Eventually, they gave me a little flyer. I gave them the Bhagavad Gita, and I talked them through a few things about reincarnation, about karma, about the form of the Lord. And sort of they said, oh, we had a really nice conversation and we'll come back again. But I didn't see them because I was traveling, to be fair. So maybe next time I see them, I'll explore these ideas more with them. So similarly, in the Bible, it talks about under his feet. So if he has a feet, he must have a body. If he has a finger, hand, eyes, ears, he must have a body, right? So similarly, in the Quran also says, the face of your Lord, under my eye, under our eyes, the hand of Allah. And obviously the Vedas have many, many descriptions. Especially Bhagavad Gita says, fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature as the supreme Lord of all that be. Isn't it? And Brahma Samhita also talks about wonderful things, how he's decked with flute and blooming lotus eyes, lotus petals eyes, and bedecked with feather and beautiful tinge. Amazing description of Krishna in Bhagavatam as well. And Ishopanishad goes on also. So like that, we have a form of the Lord. He is very much our presence, and we can actually ensure that there is a reciprocation with him in the way that we interact with him. Any questions so far?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So does the home deity have to be given a pran pratishtha or any mantras?
Very good question. Yeah. So you may say that actually, okay, it's okay for the temple to do a pran pratishtha ceremony, but what about me at home? I mean, I don't think I'm going to be able to get a deity from India or even from Birmingham or someplace and then bring them here and then do the pran pratishtha ceremony and do all of these things. It's going to take a long time. And so, yeah, we could definitely do that. Nothing wrong with that. Or what is recommended within a home environment is that one goes and gets the deity from a genuine place and ask the pujari or the person selling where the deity is from. Is it made from the right metals, right materials, like that? And then what we essentially do with the deity worship within the home is we do a welcoming ceremony. We bring them into the home through singing, dancing, showering some flowers, and then present them into an altar, and then do an abhishek. So we do here, you can see on this screen, Gaura Nitai is being given an abhishek of of 5 things, Panchamrit abhishek of ghee, milk, yogurt, honey, and some juices like that, and water like that. Juice can be also water like that. And so you can do a abhishek, and then you invite through mantras, simply chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, or one of the persons from the temple can come along and help you with the abhishek like that. And then you feed the brahmanas. The main aspect of our worship is not the importance of the pran pratishtha, but actually the love and devotion. As soon as a deity is starting to be worshipped with love and devotion, Krishna automatically starts residing in that deity, whether a pran pratishtha ceremony has been done or not. When there's love and devotion being deposed towards an object of worship, it starts to reciprocate. I'll give you a simple example. Now, this is not to minimize any ceremonies that are going on. This is to make it more practical within a home environment. Okay. You see, water, I'm actually just taking a sip of water. Water is a very, very amazing properties. When you say certain things into water, positive things or negative things, it will take a certain form. You may have seen this experiment online. You can Google this also. There were scientists and Buddhists actually did some experiments many years ago in Nepal. And in that experiment, they took different pots of waters. And in one pot of water, they were saying very peaceful, very positive words. Another one, they were saying very negative, very harmful words, like, angry words. And then what they did, they froze the water, and then they saw the frozen structures through a microscope. And they saw that the positive words and then the devotional words of that water, the crystals had formed beautiful flowers. Amazing. But the negative words had very broken, very deformed forms after freezing. So sound vibration resonating at different frequencies, especially mantras, as we know, Hare Krishna Maha Mantra has a very, very high potency. It takes a form within the object. Similarly to a plant, you can do the same experiment with plant. They did that. And the positive plant was blooming with flower and fresh, whereas the negative plant was only very, very weak. It didn't bloom as much. It was, in a very contrasting way. And you can see this experiment. You can Google it online. Similarly, when we start doing love and devotion to deity, it actually takes form. It starts reciprocating like that. Does that answer your question, Prabhu?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Wonderful.
You mentioned feeding the Brahmanas. Is
Yes.
a system in the manner where you can donate to?
Yeah, so you can, at any temple, you can make a donation to feed the brahmanas, because most of the temples have residential brahmacharis and brahmacharinis, especially in the West. In the East, there's mainly brahmacharis, brahmachari ashram. And there's also cows, for example, at the manor. So they're actually also Vaishnavas, because remember, they've just taken a body of a cow.
Yeah,
Ultimately-
another person is Kumaden, isn't it? But I don't know if he's still there.
Sorry, say again?
Yeah, I got the contact details for, to feed the cows, but
Yeah.
I don't know who to contact for feeding the brahmanas or brahmacharis.
Literally, if you go onto the donation page on the website, there'll be an option to say for a prashadam seva. There's prashadam seva, or there's the brahmachari ashram seva,
Right.
or you can even put it in the notes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Wonderful. Any other questions before we move on to the sacred space, which is the second part of today's session? Okay. So idol or ideal worship. How does matter transform? We've talked about that. What about broken deities? Okay, what about deities that are broken? What happens to them? Any ideas? What happens to broken deities? So obviously, if a deity becomes slightly damaged, depends on where the damage is. You may be able to continue, but if his arm is broken or the nose is broken, the leg, then we take the deity and we replace the deity with another deity, and that deity we either give them into the river, like Ganges or any other river that's flowing near you. You can do a visarjan of the deity. If you don't have a river, also, or you can ask somebody to take it to India if they're going, and then put it in the Ganges like that. Yeah. What else? Why is deity worship essential? We talked about that. So, okay, setting up an altar. Let's get into that now. So here we are. We can see an altar here. It's very, very simple altar. There's nice flowers. There's a picture of Radha Krishna. There is Gaur-Nitai picture. There is a picture of a spiritual master. In this case, it's actually Srila Prabhupada on here, or you might have Srila Prabhupada and another picture here of your spiritual master like that in a smaller frame. And this is a standard, very simple, but very effective temple altar. Yeah. Of course, obviously, to have a picture of Krishna or deities of Krishna and his position in the highest part of the altar, which is here, as you can see, it could be a deity or a picture. This is a picture of the Panchatattva. Does everybody know who Panchatattva are?
Yes.
5 forms of the absolute truth, starting from Lord Chaitanya. Yeah, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates. And then we always have a spiritual master's picture, Prabhupada and a spiritual master like that. And this is, like I said, the simplest and the most basic form of the Lord, of the arrangement of the altar you can have. And of course, there'll be like, other things like flowers, incense, lamps, water cups. Those are the basics there like that. Little bell and so on. In terms of which deity to have, this is another question that people often raise. In this age, it is recommended that one should worship Gaur Nitai, which is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his brother Nityananda Prabhu. One may say, why not worship Radha Krishna? Because ultimately we are trying to develop a relationship with Radha and Krishna, isn't it? And yeah, that's true. We can do that. But in this age of Kali Yuga, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to teach us about chanting of the holy names. And it is said that in this age, the way in which we can re-establish our relationship with Krishna is through Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because remember, we were originally in relationship with Krishna. We are eternally in that relationship, but we have broken that relationship and we've come to this material world. Now, again, to re-establish that relationship with Krishna through Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is way more easy than going directly to Krishna, because he's way more merciful than Radha Krishna themselves. In fact, he's known different to Radha and Krishna, but in one body. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Gauranga Mahaprabhu is way more merciful than Krishna is himself. Because when Krishna came in the last age, he gave the Bhagavad Gita and the rules and regulations related to the Bhagavad Gita, isn't it? And then he said, this is how you can approach me through a bona fide spiritual master. But when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, not only did he give those same rules, but actually he opened it up and he freely gave the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to everybody. This is why early on we said that he sent Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur to beg people to chant the names of the Lord. And just through that chanting, even without deity worship, you can actually find Krishna. But the reason why we do deity worship is also very important, which we'll come to in a minute. Any questions? Okay. And therefore, if we are to worship deities, then it is, as I said, recommended to worship Gaur Nitai. It is also said that these deities are much more merciful. Deity worship is such a thing that there are two main things very, very important with deity worship. Can you tell me what those two things are? Two things that are very, very important when we come to deity worship. What you say those two things are? Very important things. One we've already talked about previously.
I think devotion.
Okay, devotion, yes, that's there. But on a practical level, more practically, a sacred space should be very clean. Yes. Cleanliness is very, very important when it comes to deity worship. And what is another very important thing related to this thing that we wear on our wrists?
Time.
Time, punctuality. It is very regulated service. If you notice in all temples, there is always a schedule of worship when the artis are going to happen. Either 4:30 or 5 a.m. is the first arti. Yeah, isn't it? We'll come to arti in a minute. But yeah, cleanliness and punctuality are the two most things that is the most important thing in deity worship. And so as one worships Radha and Krishna, then the standards of cleanliness and the standards of punctuality and the nuances that are related to are much more specific. And therefore, one has to be much more attentive to performing the worship in the right way, especially when we are worshipping Radha and Krishna. Otherwise, one may commit something called seva aparad. Seva aparad are offenses to the deities through deity worship, which means offenses to deity worship, yes. And therefore, it is said that for us in this age of Kali, we are mostly inattentive, definitely true for my case, not very clean, and there are so many other things to think about that we may not be so attentive to the deity. So in this way, this is why it's much better and easier to worship Gaur-Nitai, because we commit less offenses against Gaur-Nitai. They don't take offenses as much as Radha and Krishna do. The worship itself also can be made much simpler and at the same time just as powerful. So it is said that one should ideally worship Gaur-Nitai because they are way more merciful and you don't really commit offenses, as I say. So any questions on that?
So what does this worship consist of? Is it just offerings or singing arti or?
For Gaur-Nitai, it's very easy. He says, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Eva Kevalam, Kalo Nastyeva, 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 Gatir Anyata. He says it 3 times in this age of Kali. Harinam, Harinam, Harinam is the only way you can actually please me. So if you have on your altar Gaur-Nitai deity or picture of Gaur-Nitai and Panchatattva, and you're simply doing Harinam, Kirtan every day, they'll be satisfied. And you'll get Radha and Krishna Prem. That's it.
Right. What about if you got Radha Krishna deity?
If you have Radha Krishna deity, you have to bathe them, you have to change them, you have to feed them, you have to do kirtan, you have to do arti, all these things. But I'm not saying that because Gaur-Nitai are so merciful that we don't do all these things. If we just did that minimal, they'll be satisfied. But out of love and wanting to develop a relationship with the deity, we do these other things. Bathing them, changing them, giving them nice clothes, offering bhoga, arti, etc. like that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Good question. Any other questions? Gaur-Nitai worship is very, very important because they actually give the mercy very easily. And the access to actually understand Krishna. Because if you look at what Chaitanya Charitamrita does, it tells us how to understand Krishna. What is the process of understanding Krishna? Bhagavatam talks about Krishna and his pastimes, and many, many devotees, how they've sort of come to the platform of understanding Krishna, but not how to understand Krishna. Gita is the words of Krishna, philosophical words. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually teaches us how. So he gives us the mercy and he gives us the ability to understand Krishna. Otherwise, to develop a relationship with Krishna and to understand him is more difficult in this age of Kali. And therefore, if one already has them, that's okay. If you already have a Radha Krishna deity, that's okay. Keep them. And many, many Indian homes have. You can still have Gaur-Nitai and you can worship them through Gaur-Nitai. That is much more merciful. They will take away any offenses like that. Any other questions? Let me ask you a question. What about Vrinda Devi or Tulsi Maharani? It is said that Tulsi Maharani is the guardian of devotion. And so when we are trying to develop devotion to Krishna, then by worshipping Tulsi, we can actually invoke within us that devotion also. And that is the very, very important type of worship, because devotion is what we're trying to actually cultivate. And later on, when we even talk about offering food to Krishna, we'll see the importance of tulsi leaves. Tulsi Rani is very much present generally in an Indian home anyway. Does everybody have tulsi at home?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. You see, so generally you already have her available. It's very important to have her. So like that, okay? All right, so what do we do in our sacred space once we have it? Once we have the nice spiritual environment. What spiritual activities do we do in a sacred space? The main idea of having a sacred space in the house is a place where all the members of the family can come together and do each of these things in the spiritual activities, which is why it's a separate room from another. Ideally, it's a separate room from a same room in a same environment. People can come and read scriptures. They can chant japa in a nice, peaceful environment. They can pray. They can say various prayers. They can sing. They can discuss different philosophical points and glories and pastimes of Krishna. Like that. All these things we can do. Yeah. Obviously, they can also do arti, they can also do offering of bhoga, different things like that. But these are some of the spiritual activities that we can also do like that. Yeah? We can do other activities there. Deity care, wake up the deity, put the deity to rest. Dressing of the deity, abhishek of the deity, we briefly talked about. And then arti, worship of the deity, which we can come to next. Right? Any questions so far? So let me ask you a question. What does anybody know what the word arati actually means? What does the term arati mean? It's interesting, isn't it? Because this is a thing that we've been doing, like our families have been doing, and the families and families they've been doing. Most of us have been grown up with arati, but what do we actually mean by arati? Why do we do it? Any idea? So the word arati comes from the term rat or ratri. Do you know what it means by rat or ratri?
Night.
Night, yes. When you put an A in front of night, what does it do? When you put an A in front of any Sanskrit term, what does it do?
Makes it the opposite.
It makes it the opposite, exactly. So when you put an A in front of rat or ratri, it turns into equivalent opposites. So arati literally means two things: before night or end of the night. So this end of the night is represented by the arti at the end of the night. Night is darkness or illusion or ignorance. And when one performs the arti, then what one does is that it ends that night. It ends the ignorance, it ends the darkness, it ends the illusion. They end that illusion, they end the ignorance, darkness, because with the lamp of knowledge, jnana dipena, everything is illuminated. And that's why the arati means the end of the night. But also it means before the night, actually means before night ends, right? Traditionally, artis are performed 6 times a day, and the first arati of the day is at 4:30 a.m., isn't it? Which is called, what is the 4:30 arati called in the morning?
Mangal Arti.
Mangal. Mangal, all auspicious arti. because not only is it making auspicious, it's making the whole environment auspicious, because it's removing all that ignorance. 4:30 a.m., 1.5 hours. We wake up 1.5 hours before Brahma Muhurta. And usually, if the timings are normal, then that is the Brahma Muhurta period. Right now in the UK, the timings are not normal because we're still in the British summertime, and then the clocks will go back and then time will become normal again, right? So that's why our Brahma Muhurta at the moment is like 6 a.m. when it's supposed to be 4 a.m. But still, we are still up anyway. We're doing the Mangalarti, we're doing Japa during that period. So Mangalarti is the first Arti, hence the end of the night. Yeah. So that's why it's called end of the night also. Basically, because the first of the Arti of the day is before the end of the night, and it's the first worship of the Lord. This is how this name has come about, Arati. Okay. So significance of the ceremony, what does it all represent? What does all of these things represent? So actually, let me ask you a question. What are the different parts of the Arati? I just showed it very quickly on the screen, but I took it away. So what are the different component parts of the Arati? A few are shown on the screen here. So you can tell me. Oh, I want everybody to say something because devotees are very quiet. Madhvi, you can start, and then I'll go around and ask people, what are the different component parts on a typical Arati tray?
Ghee lamp,
Ghee lamp, okay.
handkerchief,
Handkerchief, okay. And then somebody else, Anseli or Jay. What else is on the Arati tray?
Is there a bell there? I'm not sure.
Bell, yes. Yes, there's a bell. Wonderful, yes. Anseli? Are you still with us? No? Okay. All right. I'm just going to show. So we have two types of conch shells. Incense stick or incense and incense stick holder, ghee lamp, water, handkerchief, flowers, yak's tail, which is like a white fan, a fan, which is a peacock feather fan, and a bell. And we also have something called an Achaman cup to purify our hands, to purify our mouth and the entire body through mantras. Yeah. Okay, wonderful. So we talked about the significance of the Arati ceremony, what it represents. Now, what do these items actually mean? Are they just random items that we just thought one day somebody woke up and said, okay, yeah, we're going to have incense stick, we're going to have water, we're going to have handkerchief, this is. What do they actually represent? What does it all mean? What is it that give each of these items to Krishna mean? Why are we offering them to Krishna? What is the purpose of offering? What are we actually offering to him? What is the significance?
I think they represent the Pancha Mahabhuta, 5 elements, and mind, intelligence, and ego.
Wonderful. Yes. Yes. Wonderful. They do that. The material creation is made up of the 5 elements, Panchabhutam, as Madhvi said, which are, what are the 5 elements?
Earth, water, fire, ether, air.
Yes. And so which items represent this Panchabhutam out of those items that we've got? So I would like everybody to participate. Which are the items that represent these things? Earth, water, fire, ether, air. Which item represents which? So, okay, Earth, let me make it a little bit easier. Earth represents all the solids. Water represents all the liquids. Fire represents all radiation. Air represents all gases. Ether represents the totality of space. So now if you think about those things, solids, liquids, radiation, gases, and space, you can actually connect them to the things that are on screen, or the different items that are there on our RT tray.
Incense must be air and the gases.
Yes,
Incense.
yes, it's a gases, correct? Because it's an aroma in the air. Yeah. Which one is fire?
Ghee lamp.
Yep. Which one is water?
The water.
The water, yes. Which one are the solids?
Flowers.
Yes.
Bell. Might be sound, isn't it?
Handkerchief. Because cotton usually is made from cotton, it grows out of the earth. So then earth represents solids. So earth represents handkerchief and flowers. Water represents the water. Fire represents the ghee lamp. Air is the incense and the fan and the whisk. Ether. What is ether? Which part represents the ether?
Conch shell is the only one that's remaining, I think.
There's two sound elements. There's two sound parts. One is the conch shell, blowing out the conch shell, and one is the bell. When we ring the bell, it actually penetrates into our psyche and makes us very concentrated. That's why when we ring the bell, when we come into the temple, it instantly takes our consciousness away from whatever nonsense we're thinking about, and it aligns us to something more spiritual. Obviously, the Achaman cup is there to purify, which is also water. Wonderful. So these are the 5 elements that constitute the entire material creation. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that everything that we see in this material world is a representative of these 5 elements. As we've talked about, solids, liquids, radiation, gases, and space. So all of these RT items correspond to these elements, which are indicative of them, which we've just discussed. So when we're offering each of these items, we're actually representing the 5 elements. And because these 5 elements is what we are made of, our body is made of these, gross body is made of these five elements, right? But Madhvi mentioned our subtle body also, isn't it? So how are we engaging our mind, intelligence, and ego, which is made up of, which makes up our subtle body? Our mind is engaged through the chanting of the various hymns, various mantras, similarly with our intelligence. And our ego is, or false ego, is represented through bowing down. When we bow down, we are letting go of our ego and we bow down. We even pray like this. We hold hands together, we pray. That is also letting our ego go, like that. Wonderful. Okay, good. Okay. So RT worship. In the left hand, you hold the bell. But before that, we have to actually offer each of these items. It's offered in a specific order. There's a specific order of offering these items in a number of times. We first do a simple purification using the Achman cup. We take the cup from there. We take the spoon and we literally take some water and put it on our hand, in our left hand. We basically take it like this and we flick it so the water drops in our hand. It's just automatically purifying, and it's actually running down the spine of the spoon, so it's purifying the spoon also. So that purifies our left hand, and then we take and flick a little bit of water on the right hand. That's purifying the hands. And then we now need to ingest some water through mantra. So we take a little bit of water in our center of our hand and say Om Keshavaya Namaha, and we drink it. We try and not touch the mouth. We just throw the water in our in our mouth. Or if we can't do that, we're going to throw it into our eye, for example, or onto somebody. We just, through the palm here, we drink the water and we purify the hand again. And then we say Om Keshwaya Narayana Namaha, Om Madhavaya Namaha. So Om Keshwaya Namaha, Om Narayana Namaha, Om Madhavaya Namaha. 3 mantras to purify ourselves. And then we drop the water on our head, Om Damodaraya Namaha, and a few drops on our feet, Om Padmanabhaya Namaha, like that. Does everybody apply tilak here? Do you all apply tilak? Like through all the body? Face is one thing, but through the body?
I have done it a few times, not regularly.
Because there are the 12 mantras, and the 3 mantras of the Achaman, the first 3 mantras of the Achaman is actually the mantras for doing the Achaman, the tilak mantras for Achaman. Okay, wonderful. But we can go through tilak way later anyway. Okay, so once you've done the Achaman, you also have one thing that's not on this list is you also have a kusha grass mat, a little asana is called. It looks like this. I'll go and get one. Oh, it's downstairs in my altar downstairs. So it's basically a little straw mat which you have, and you stand on that. Yeah. And you purify the straw mat as you're standing on top of that. Okay. So there's your purifying. Then that's simple purification. We also start the arti by blowing the conch shell. That's the blowing conch shell. And the second, that's why it says here conch shells times 2. One's a blowing conch shell, and one's the offering of the water conch shell, the 2 conch shells that you need. Yeah, which makes the environment very auspicious when you blow, and signifies the start and the end of the arti ceremony. Yeah, the blowing of the conch. And then when we offer each item, we offer it in a clockwise circular motion, like this, clockwise. Why circles and why clockwise? Why not like this? Why can't we offer arti like this? Or in a square? Why can't you offer arti? Why does it have to be in a circular motion? And why does it, why circles? Any ideas? Because when we do something in the circle, we're putting Krishna in the center. You see, wherever you are in the circle, you can see the center, isn't it? So you're always in the same distance away from the center when you're in a circle. It's very symbolic also, like that, since you are keeping Krishna in the center, no matter whatever you're doing in life, my consciousness, our consciousness is in such a way that is never far away from Krishna itself, like that. In the left hand, you hold the bell, and in the right hand, you use to offer all of the offerings. Yeah, for each item, you show to the spiritual master first. Or if you're initiated, you show to your initiating spiritual master. If you're not initiated, you show it to your spiritual master, and then to Srila Prabhupada, or just to Srila Prabhupada if you're not initiated, taking their permission, and then the arti is offered. So in fact, what you're doing, you're saying to them, please offer the arti on my behalf, because they are the pure devotees. We are still on the process of being purified. When a pure devotee offers an arti on your behalf, is way more powerful than our mundane minds or our inattentive mind, like that. So we take that permission, we actually get them to offer on our behalf, which is much more powerful. And then we offer it in certain order of offering. So first thing is the incense sticks. You either have 1 incense stick or 3 incense sticks. You don't have 2. It's odd numbers, 1, 3, 5, like that. Yeah, odd numbers. 7 times around the body by ringing the bell, and you're offering the 7 times around the body. If you're a Brahmana, you've been given a sacred thread like this one. You are a Brahmana, then you have a certain mantra that you chant as you're offering the incense stick. But you don't have to worry about that for now. just do the offering out of love. That I'm offering this incense stick as a love and affection of my love, basically. Offer of my love. And then the next part is, then you put the incense stick on a holder and either give it to somebody or put it on a holder. And then the next item is the ghee lamp. Okay. Ghee lamp you offer in 4 different ways. First, you offer it to the feet 4 times. Then to the belly 2 times round. Then to the face 3 times, and all the way around 7. 4, 2, 3, 7. 4 to the feet, 2 to the belly, 3 to the face, and 7 all the way around the body. Yes, so if you have Gaura-Nitai deities, you offer it to Gauranga Mahaprabhu first, then to Nityananda, and then to everybody else who are the pictures that you might have of Panchatattva, spiritual master, even Radha Krishna, like that. But if you have the deity and then you have pictures, the deity gets the offering first. So if you have Gaura-Nitai deity and Radha Krishna picture at the back, then you offer to Gaura-Nitai and then to Radha Krishna and then to others. If you have Radha Krishna picture and a picture of Gaura-Nitai, then you offer to Radha Krishna and then to Gaura-Nitai, like that. If you have a picture of Krishna and Sitaram, Lakshmana, Hanuman, you offer, and then Gaura-Nitai, then you offer pictures, then you offer to Radha Krishna, Sitaram, Lakshmana, Hanuman, Gaura-Nitai, like that. If you have picture of Radha Krishna, Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, Sitaram, Lakshmana, Hanuman, Gaura-Nitai, you offer to Radha Krishna, Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, Sitaram, Lakshmana, Hanuman, Gaura-Nitai, like that. If you have pictures and then you have deity of Gaura-Nitai, you offer to the deity first and then to the pictures. Because the deity has the potency. Remember, we've done the welcoming ceremony, we've done our object of devotion is the deity. Yeah, does that make sense? Okay. Wonderful. So that's the ghee lamp. Then we offer the water 7 times all the way around the body. Then we offer the handkerchief. Handkerchief is for wiping the mouth and wiping the hands, like that. Or in other scenarios also as a cloth for the body. 7 times around the body. The flowers, either you have 1 flower, 3 flower, or 5 flowers, again in odd numbers. 7 times around the feet. And then a fan 7 times you can do, or as many times as you want, or a peacock feather fan also, yak's tail and fan, like that. And then that's it. You then obviously give each of the items away to for the people to take the arti, to take the blessings, like flower, arti, and water you can sprinkle. Flowers, some people put the flowers on the feet of their deities, like that. You can give them that, like that. Any questions on offering the arti?
Did you say flowers 7 times around the feet, not the body?
Feet.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. You actually
You
sing
can do
in
it around
arti
the
as
body
well.
also, it's not a problem.
Is that actual artist sang as well?
Yes, so there are different artists sung at different times. So obviously, Mangal Arti, we sing the Samsara Dava prayers. Samsara Dava Nalarida Loka. There's different prayers. So when a pujari is doing the arti, this is basically a pujari doing the arti, and singing is a bhajan that goes along. You can either, if you're on your own or just a couple of you, then one person sings, one person does the arti, or you can even play the songs on YouTube, etc., like that. They're available. For example, Kripamoya Prabhu has a nice full morning program bhajan arti available. So many devotees have.
So when they're offering the arti, it's not always circular, clockwise circular. They sometimes rotate it backwards as well, don't it? Slightly, then go around circular. That's what I've seen.
Okay, it's probably not the right thing to do, but usually it's circular.
Yeah, always clockwise.
Always clockwise, because
yeah, sometimes the whole seat, then go back slightly, then go around again.
No, it's usually okay. So in the
In the
know what you're
Mataji
saying. In a Hindu home, they do like this.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
They do like, let me just show it like this. They do like this. Like this.
Yes.
It's actually just clockwise. Because in the scriptures, it is says when you do something anti-clockwise, it is to the dead. When you offer anything, like if you're serving something and you're offering prasadam like this, you're offering like this. But if you offer it like this, when you, for example, when you're watering tulsi, we offer it like this. Like, you know, like right hand and like this. If you do it the opposite way, again, it's to the dead. So it's not really recommended to do it in that way, simply offering it clockwise like that. Yeah.
So can you show how you did the tulsi again? How do you
Yeah. So basically, it's just like this.
Okay.
Yeah. You're taking your hand and you're moving it to the left side.
All right.
Not to the opposite ways. And even it's uncomfortable to put it like that. When you're serving somebody some prasadam, you serve it on their plate like this, right? Like this.
Okay.
Not like that. Some people I've seen they do it like that when I have to tell them, like, okay, actually, this is you're offering it to the, it's an offense to the object of your worship. So yeah, there are different bhajans sung. There's different artis. Mangal arti 4:30 a.m. Then we have a 7 o'clock Shayana arti, or not Shayana arti, Darshan arti at 7 o'clock. Which is where they've been bathed, they've got new dresses on, and we normally play Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami, Brahma Samhita, 2 verses of the Brahma Samhita. It's a nice prayer by Yamuna Mataji, which Prabhupada approved, which is really nice. Then we have Guru Puja at Srila Prabhupada. It's 7:10, something like that. And we do a Guru Puja offering, Guru Vandanam, Shri Guru Charana Padma, like that. Before, obviously, Sandhya Arti, Darshan Arti starts, we have Tulsi Arti also. So we do Tulsi prayers, like that, Tulsi Kirtan. And in the evening, there's 12 o'clock Arti also. Usually 12 o'clock Arti, there's not a specific bhajan as such, but we generally sing Hare Krishna, like that. And then 7 p.m. there's also 4 o'clock Arti in the afternoons. There's 12:20 Arti and a 4:30 Arti. Then there's a 6 o'clock RT, and then there's a 7 o'clock RT, and a 9 o'clock RT, like that. 7 o'clock is the Gora RT. We sing the Gora RT song, like that, which is very wonderful also. And then in the evening, the Shayana RT in the evening is the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, like that. Yeah. Some people they sing different bhajans also, like Vrindavan bhajans and so on. Okay. But ultimately, we do all of these things, especially Guru Puja, which is an offering on Arti to Srila Prabhupada. Because Guru is not God, but he's worshipped as good as God. And he's the via medium for us to be connected back to God with devotion. Yeah. Any questions on Arti? Idea is to keep it simple, and we're keeping Krishna, the original creator, the original source of everything, in our altar at the topmost level. Yeah. If you have a standard Hindu altar, then you could look at adjusting the altar so that then Krishna is also like predominant on the altar at the top, and then all the other deities are towards sort of like sort of like a hierarchical way, in that way. Yeah. Obviously, that requires a bit of a discussion with the family members. Some people may say, oh, I think my God is bigger than this, and they might be a little bit of a thing. But you can have your own space if it creates a conflict, then you can have a little space in your own room or something like that. Yeah. Okay, so if there's no more questions on that, we can go to offering of food. We have a different things about food, so we'll look at that. We can start with that now. So let's have a quick look at the time. Where are we at time? Okay, it's coming up to 12. Are we okay to carry on to food, or did you want a 5-minute break? Hmm.
I'm
Okay.
okay.
Okay, let's carry on. Okay. Yeah. So one thing that we do is offer foods to the deities, which is called bhoga. It's not prasadam yet because it becomes prasadam after we've offered the bhoga. We are known as the kitchen religion, isn't it? Krishna consciousness is definitely known as a Christian religion. Offering food to Krishna is actually a very, very spiritual activity, and it has been for thousands of years. Even today, if you go to Jagannath Puri, or Puri is famous for its Chapan Bhog offerings, 56 items of minimum 56 items of offering. They're like 9 different types of rice, 15 different types of sabjis, shak, 10, 15 different types of sweets, different types of cakes, and so many drinks, like every single day. In fact, throughout the day, there's different varieties of Chapan Bhogs being offered. They say that the flames in the kitchens of Jagannath Puri are always burning and never go out for thousands and hundreds of years because the cooking is constantly going on. There are like 700 stoves. I don't know whether you've been to Jagannath Puri. Have you been to the Jagannath Puri temple? It's amazing. You look through the little holes that are there, and there's kitchen on the other side, and they're all cooking. All the pujaris are cooking. And there's 700 different stoves there. And they're like covering an area of like 1 acre, 8 to 900 cooks. It's phenomenal. It's like really, really huge, massive kitchen, you know? And so offering food to Krishna is very, very important devotional activity. Srila Prabhupada, when he came to the US, he introduced prasadam as a very important way to change our consciousness. Srila Prabhupada called it the secret weapon of Krishna consciousness. And he used to call these gulab jamuns Hare Krishna bullets. And these are Hare Krishna bullets. So if you're feeling hungry, just put your hand in this jar and help yourself to a Hare Krishna bullet. And it'll wake you up and make you go and do your services like that. And so then he introduced many, many offerings like that. And so ISKCON bullets were introduced by Srila Prabhupada to the hungry hippies, and that not the hungry hippos, the hungry hippies that were there in the early days. And so don't go to the donut shop or anywhere else. Have one of these ISKCON bullets. These are the sweets of Krishna Prasadam. Yeah, so like that. There's a very nice story of Satswarup Maharaj, who was called Steve at that time before he got initiated. Satswarup Maharaj is a Prabhupada disciple. He's wrote many, many books. And one time, he was out distributing some books, and he came back late from work. And Prabhupada looked at him, and he said, "Oh yeah." Prabhupada said to him, "So where are you coming from?" So I'm coming from work. And he said, "So late?" "Yes, I'm coming. It's been a very busy day today." So and Prabhupada asked him, "So have you eaten?" And Steve goes, "No, I didn't get a chance to eat." And Prabhupada actually took out a whole plate of Mahaprasadam and gave it to Satswarup Maharaj, because Prabhupada knew that he would be coming in late and he would be looking after how Prabhupada really was personally taking care of the devotees in the very beginning. Prabhupada used to cook himself, clean himself, wash all the pots. He used to feed all the devotees in the beginning. They used to come, sit around, listen to Prabhupada. He used to feed them. Then he would clear up, he would wash up, he would then sweep and mop the floor on his hands and knees, because then they didn't used to use a mop like we have a stick and a mop here. He used to be on his hands and knees at the ripe old age of over 70. He used to do all this because Prabhupada knew the potency of prasadam. And when a pure devotee gives you prasada, you know you're delivered. You know that you get purified. And that's why prasadam is one of the biggest thing that Prabhupada actually gave his disciples. He also taught them how to cook prasadam for Krishna. You see, the second class service on our altar is to offer Krishna what we are eating. what we like to eat. So yeah, we wake up in the morning. What do I fancy today? A paratha. Yes, I'm going to make a paratha for myself and I'm going to offer that to Krishna. That's fine. That's nice. It's still good. We're offering something to Krishna and we're eating it. But actually, what is best, what is the topmost, is to offer Krishna what he wants, what he likes. Isn't it? So how do we know what Krishna likes? How do we know what to offer to Krishna? Any ideas? Because they say, right, in the health conscious world that we live in today, in the health conscious way that we live in today, we know that food is a very big thing. We are what we eat. So we offer things that we like to eat for Krishna, isn't it? But how do we know what Krishna likes to eat? When we offer things to Krishna, what he likes to eat, that food has a very profound impact on our consciousness. Because I'll tell you, recently, in the last couple of years, I had a torn tendon on my right shoulder and a fraying tendon on my left shoulder. And I couldn't even lift my arms above my shoulders, let alone do a full arti. And I was on the altar at the Bhaktivedanta Manor at times, in the morning especially, sometimes changing, sometimes doing different activities. And so I couldn't do my services. And so the doctors said to me, okay, you know, they did an x-ray, they said it's torn here. We can give you a steroid injection. So they gave me a steroid injection on both arms. That sort of helped for like 6, 8 months, but then the problem became worse. Then I read up on steroid injection. They actually said in one of the side effects that it actually weakens the area, weakens the muscles around where you've taken the steroid injection. And so they said to me, okay, the other thing we can do is you have an operation and you reattach an artificial tendon. That tendon is, I don't know whether all of you know what a tendon is. Basically, you have skin, you have the muscles, you have the ligaments, and then underneath that you have the tendon, which joins the two parts of the bone together. And when that is compromised, you know, it pains, it then also creates an issue. They say we can have an operation, we can attach a tendon, and that'll take 15 months to actually heal properly with all the physio and everything. I said, I don't have 15 months. So somebody recommended Ayurveda. So somebody recommended to go to India and do an Ayurveda. So I went to Kerala. They couldn't really help me because it was a sports injury, but I went to Ujjain, ISKCON Ujjain. My Guru Maharaj's Ayurvedic clinic there. And then they said, okay, yes, we will look at you, we'll help you. And I did a 21-day treatment. Within 12 days, I could move my arms completely like this. I could rotate my arms. I could do different activities. I could put, like, you know, do press ups. I could do put pressure on it. And it was amazing. Absolutely amazing. Obviously, it wasn't just the treatment, the panchakarma treatment. It was also the diet. What we eat, because it's our doshas, vata, kapha, and pitta. What we eat, we are what we eat. So everybody's has got a different bodily constitution. So what we eat is very, very important. And so once you're on this Ayurvedic treatment, they give you a very specific, very regimented diet. They also give you medicated water to drink and medicines to take whilst you're there. And then also, once they discharge you, they'll give you other medication to take away. For 3 months, you take medication, and then you see how you get on. And I tell you, I was so impressed. I was very, very impressed. I actually went again this year to Ujjain, as well as Govardhan Eco Village. They also have an Ayurvedic clinic. And so food is a very important part of our spiritual activity. Offering of the bhoga, we will continue. We'll talk about that in the next session when we have next week. But I want to talk about the karma-free nature of food that we offer. what is it that we why do we offer this type of foods? So from a spiritual perspective, it's not only good for our material consciousness, but Krishna Prasadam, as I'm sure you all know, purifies our entire being. The body, gross and subtle, mind and the soul, and elevates our consciousness as well as removes karma from the food itself. To survive in this world, we have to kill to do so, isn't it? Everybody, all of us have to kill in order to survive. That's the nature of the material world. One animal is the food for another animal. For us, are you, by the way, all vegetarians?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Anseli, are you a vegetarian?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, welcome back. And we asked you some questions earlier, but you might have gone to the bathroom or something. Okay, so what is it that a vegetarian diet actually gives you? There was a study done by Southampton University, and according to the Times paper, as to why they found that the vegetarian diets generally have a higher IQs, better jobs, they say, better financial bracket, cost the NHS much less, the hospitals, get divorced less. Well, I'm sure that's debatable, but this was a study done by the Southampton University. And I was quite astounded by this list here because I've seen some vegetarians and they can be, I don't know whether they have the high IQs, but they're just too transcendental, sometimes. But yeah, this is what they said. So that in itself is good reasons to become a vegetarian. And so you can actually also help others understand. We have a nice book called The Higher Taste, talks about the vegetarian diet. There are lots and lots of reasons to be a vegetarian. I'm sure all of you are familiar with those reasons. So because you're all a vegetarian anyway, I don't really want to labor on that point. But a balanced vegetarian diet on the whole yields a very healthy diet and a body that actually helps you prevent from common diseases of this world today. There's a huge inconsistency in the way animals are treated, whereas one animal type is seen as mere food and another animal type is seen as the best friend, isn't it? Like the dog is seen as the best friend of the human beings, whereas a cow, who's all providing, all nurturing, is seen as simply food. Srila Prabhupada even said many times that people these days, rather than having a loving relationship with their dog, they rather have a loving relationship with their dog than God. So this is the issue. So we only offer vegetarian foodstuffs to Krishna. On another level, also, we offer food to Krishna that are wholesome, clean, pure food that are going to have a good positive effect on the consciousness. And therefore, certain things fail to meet those criteria, like eggs, onion and garlic, mushrooms, tea and coffee, etc. Like that. They don't really meet those criteria of good quality, clean, pure foods, like that. Okay, any questions on this?
Sattvic food.
Yeah,
Chapter,
sattvic food.
chapter 17.
Yes.
But doesn't say includes fatty foods or something as well?
Yes, so fatty means succulent. Doesn't mean fatty as in like you put on weight, like you pile on a whole lot of saturated fats. No. Fatty foods means succulent.
Or can you give examples then?
Yeah, so for example, something that is actually nourishing, that nourishes the body. So for example, ghee, sometimes it says, okay, too much things fried in ghee is bad for you. But actually, if you use the right type of ghee with the right type of, that's come from the right milk, A2 milk, it's very nourishing for our body. And when you create sabjis, when you create certain preparations in that ghee, it is very succulent for us.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? We're all comfortable about onion, garlic, tea, coffee, mushrooms, red lentils, la la la, like that, yeah? Okay, all right. So yeah, vegetarian diet again is great for health, brilliant for our physiology. Physiologically, it's also very good. On an overall society level, it's also very good because there's, the karmic levels are very low. Again, ethical because we're not actually harming any other creations of the Lord, like other animals, other plants, and so on, like that. On the ethical level is good. But some may say that, how about, plant? Plant is also an animal, or sorry, a plant also feels. So when we kill a plant, what about that? Isn't there karma involved with plants? What do we think about that? When we take spinach off the ground, we're killing the plant. When we doing the different things, we are, harming lots of living entities. What about that? What about the karma for that? What happens there? Do we get the karma for that? What do we think? Okay, so the first thing that happens is, firstly, plants and other non-moving entities like that, which is supposed to be genuinely for our foods, because obviously we don't have the canine even or the digestive systems to actually digest meats. Plants, we take the plant food. Firstly, their consciousness is much lower, so their feeling of pain is level. That doesn't mean we harm them. We take that foodstuffs, we prepare it nicely, we offer that to Krishna. Krishna takes the karma away from that, and he enhances the quality of that bhoga into prasadam. That's why it transforms from bhoga to prasadam. And so then that's why it's karma-free food, but it's actually nourishing food like that. Yeah. Also, when we are cooking, the cooking process itself is very, very ethical, in the sense that we have to have a bath before we start the cooking process. We prepare the foods in a clean environment, not the one that's unhealthy. It has the meat stuff in there or other items that are there. We just make sure it's cleaned. We use nice clean utensils. Our consciousness is also clean, so we either play some kirtan or some lecture or some talk or something like something more uplifting in our consciousness when we're cooking, because consciousness also goes in the cooking process. This is why when we go to restaurants, when we go to different places to eat, sometimes we feel either lusty or angry, etc., because that was the consciousness of the cook that cooked the item that we were eating. So the consciousness is very, very important when we're cooking. Yeah. To maintain a nice devotional consciousness when we're cooking. Avoid tasting while we are cooking. Only taste after offering has been done to Krishna. So after you've been cooking for a while, you know how much salt to put, you know how much spice to put, you know how much water and different sweets, sugars, etc. things, sweetener to put in your foods. Those items that require sweetness like that. Maintain a good standard of cleanliness. Hands are clean. Wash them regularly when you're preparing, especially in between chopping things. Fruits and vegetables are clean. Keep your surrounds clean. Wash up and tidy up as you go along, rather than leaving a big mess at the end. As you go along and waiting for things to cook, you start cleaning up. Ensure surfaces are clean before and after the cooking sessions, like that. Once everything is ready, offer Krishna in a wonderful set of utensils, which is his own. So like a nice plate with different bowls and cups and spoons, which is separate to everyone else's. It's just Krishna's plate, Krishna's utensils, Krishna's bowls and cups and so on. And present it very nicely, all the preparations that you've made, including maybe some side condiments of salt and pepper, some chutneys, etc. like that, some drinks you can then offer. You can put tulsi leaves on each unique item. So if you have 2 puris, you put 1 tulsi leaf, not 2 tulsi leaves on the 2 puris, for example, like that. Each item should have a a tulsi leaf, because without tulsi, Krishna does not accept any item. That's how much he reveres Tulsi Maharani. And that's why she came, in order to help the devotees present, offer bhoga to Krishna. One of the reasons why she came. If you don't have a tulsi plant at home, you can keep a little tulsi bar, a stick of a tulsi, and you can touch it and then wash it and put it back in its place, in the sacred space around where the utensils are kept. Then you cover the plate with a cloth, and then you take it to the altar and you offer it on the altar. Yeah, we will talk about how to offer something later on in a later session. And in that way, you offer the food to Krishna and meditate that how lovingly you have prepared all the preps, and that Krishna via Guru Parampara is really going to enjoy your offering. And then you meditate on that, how Krishna is enjoying it and how he's turning that into prasadam. You leave the altar, wait for 15 minutes, and then you go back, clap your hands like this 3 times, ring the bell, and then you pick up the items, the plate and the other items from the altar, and put it back in the pots that are offered. So when you're making the offering, we will discuss that a little bit more. You're offering not just the plate, but also other things that are in the pots also. So that's how it becomes, the whole thing becomes prasadam. It's not that when you're adding the plate prasadam back into the pots, it becomes prasadam. You're offering the whole thing from the outset, like that. Yeah. Okay. After the offering, you come back, you put everything back into its pots, and then you clean the utensils, you dry them, and you put the utensils away. And then after that, you honor the prasadam. Yeah. So that's the basic process of how you offer something on the altar. But we will go through the offer pranam mantras in the next session. Also keep in mind that when we are offering, you put the plate or the offering in front of the spiritual master or Srila Prabhupada. But because sometimes what happens is they're on the side and Krishna's in the center, and your offering place is in the center, you're putting it in front. You're offering it through Srila Prabhupada or your spiritual master, and it goes across like that. Yeah, makes sense? Because the spiritual master will then offer it to his spiritual master, and then he offers to his spiritual master, and all the way up to Krishna. And then Krishna takes it, and then he makes it into prasadam and comes down all the way down to parampara. And they're all honoring it, making it Maha Prasadam, and then we honoring the Maha Prasadam. That's why at the temple you get Maha Prasadam and you get Prasadam, 2 types. Okay, any questions?
Yes.
Huh?
Did you say if if you're cooking for a lot of people, you've got probably large pot? Did you say you have to offer the whole thing?
Yeah. So what you can do, if you have a lot of food, then basically you take a small portion of that onto the plates and you offer the plate. And then mentally you say, this is the offering, but we also have the whole pot on the stove. So you're on your mind, you're saying this is the whole thing that's been offered.
All right. Okay. You don't have to put
You
it back
don't
into
bring the whole
pot.
pot over, no.
Okay, but you don't have to put it back into the pot as well.
You put it back into the pot.
You have to.
Yeah.
Or you don't.
You do put it,
mentally said it, you don't.
You do put it back into the pot, because you remember you have to wash the utensils before you honor prasadam.
Okay.
That's the minimum standard. You wash the utensils, dry it, put it away, and then you honor prasadam. Any other questions? So that's basically the process, basic process like that. This is all around karma food, like that. So yeah, we've covered 2 parts so far. Like that, we offer the food to Krishna in this way. Okay, obviously in this scenario, they're just offering all whole foods, plates of fruits. Now, what would you say about this offering on this picture? Is it a good offering? Simple offering? If you were to do anything different, what would you do?
Prepare it exactly the way you would eat it.
Yeah. Exactly. You'd peel this is a quick offering because obviously somebody's late for work. And then they're going, okay, I have to go to do my offering. Oh my God, I haven't served anything to Krishna. Let me quickly offer something. Fine, that's okay. Our lives are busy. But sometimes, yeah, we wake up 5 minutes early, 10 minutes early, prepare it nicely, chop it up into nice things, make it into maybe a fruit salad or even individuals, but present it nicely to Krishna. You can offer it nicely. And that's where love and relationship comes in. And then when people are taking that as prasadam, they will see, oh wow, that's a nice offering. They'll want to eat it. Otherwise, they'll take this and okay, they'll take that, put it in their pocket, and then they run with it. Sometimes they may forget it in the pocket. Like, not even eaten the prasadam. These things can happen. But yeah, when it's prepared nicely, then we're having a nice, loving devotion with the Lord like that. Any lasting questions on RT or prasadam or karma-free food, anything like that?
So what about those people at work and have to eat outside?
Sorry, those who
have to eat outside when they're at work.
Right. Yeah. So when we have to eat outside, for example, when we have to eat at work or things like that, ideally, if you can get vegetarian food without onion garlic, that's the best. Second ideal or higher than that is if you can take some food with you, which has been offered. You can even prepare it the day before and you can take it with you. Although they say that, prasadam should be eaten within 3 hours, but, unfortunately, we have to be a bit more practical. When I used to work in Canary Wharf, I used to cook. I used to wake up early and then cook in the morning and then take with me like that, breakfast and lunch together. Breakfast I used to have, and then usually a fruit salad, and then lunch I would have either quinoa salad, quinoa vegetables or rice vegetables or some sabji and then some chapatis or whatever it might be. Sometimes I would take pasta with me, and it became so popular in my team that some of the Hindus or some of the other people were saying, "Oh, what did you bring today? Can you bring for me also?" After a while, after about 2 months, me bringing food, they were saying, "Oh, can you also bring for me?" Because it was so nice. And it was only nice because it was prasadam, because Krishna had tasted it, like that. So some people used to do that. And I started doing service at Soul Street, doing Food for Life distribution as part of their Tuesday team. And some people from work said, oh, we also want to come. So you see, prasadam has these consciousness uplifting gifts. And they still, even today, go and distribute Food for Life. Even though I've moved on and they're still carrying on, like that. Any other questions? If you're at work and you can't obviously take food with you, and you had to buy food that at least if you can get vegetarian without onion garlic, you can in your mind offer it to Krishna before you have it. If you're in a hurry, if you only have a few minutes, then the bare minimum you can do is chant 3 times Jai Shri Vishnu, Jai Shri Vishnu, Jai Shri Vishnu. Meditate that you're offering to Vishnu, and then you're honoring that food stuffs that is there, sandwich or whatever it might be.
Is it a sin to eat onion and garlic? I mean, I've been a vegetarian for a long time, but I'm still eating onion and garlic sometimes.
Okay, so good question. What does onion garlic represent? Anybody from the Bhagavad Gita?
Tamasic, isn't it? It's tamasic food, mode of ignorance, food and mode of ignorance.
Correct. Yeah. So we have foods in different types. Again, chapter 17 and chapter 14 talks about foods in different types. If you look at Google and you Google fighter pilots are told not to eat onion and garlic before they fly their sorties in a fighting scenario, because it impedes their consciousness, impedes their movement, it slows them down. Although onion and garlic medically may seem beneficial for blood thinning, etc., but actually consciously is very detrimental for our body. It invokes anger, it invokes lusty desires. So those aspects are not conducive for our Krishna consciousness. It impedes us from using the mantras in reaching the higher consciousness that we are trying to do. Similarly with caffeine, tea, coffee, intoxication like that. Yeah. Jay, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, it's no direct harm involved to any other living entities.
It's not harming, but it's actually impeding you from elevating yourself to the modes of nature towards sattva gun. The whole point of this process is to elevate yourself from rajagun, tamagun to tamagun, rajagun to sattvagun,
Okay.
to mode of goodness. In fact, we have to transcend all the three modes and come to pure goodness, actually, because we don't associate with the material world at all, isn't it? We want to stray away from material world altogether and come to pure goodness, and therefore we can then go back to our original state in the spiritual world.
So is it just onions, garlic, or is it anything else that grows below ground or something like that?
So mushrooms also. Mushrooms are actually a living entity, fungal.
Oh,
It's very tamasic. So onion-related items, so onions, chives, onions and chives, spring onions are all onion family, like that. But you can find wonderful substitute for these things. For example, hing tastes just like onion. Cabbage, if you finely chop it and you put it in amongst the preparation, it's actually it just tastes like onion. And the hing actually also, there's an aroma of garlic. So all these things are available. Trust me, after a while, once you're chanting 16 rounds, even after chanting just 4 rounds, all these other things, lower things will naturally fall off. You won't even miss it. Anything else? Okay. All right. So I suggest we take a 5-minute break. It's only like half an hour for the next item, which is family affairs. So we'll talk about that a bit more. So we'll take a 5-minute break. It's now just coming up to 12:30. 5 minutes, and then we come back. Yeah. Thank you. I'll pause the recording for now. Jen and Sally as well back. Okay, so wonderful. Okay, let's start. Next part. Let me just share my screen. If you do think of other things as you're going through later on, revising, then just put the questions on the WhatsApp group, or even during our next session that some questions may come up. Please just write them down and you can ask. Yeah. All right, the final part of this section is very interesting. It's about how to actually keep a healthy balance between our Krishna consciousness and our family life. Once we start in spiritual life, once we start in Krishna consciousness, how are we supposed to relate to family members, some of whom may be devotees of Krishna, but some who may not be devotees of Krishna, but whom are nevertheless, with whom we are nevertheless very close and very dear to us, isn't it? So let me ask you a question. Have you ever heard a story of the 4 wives? The story of the 4 wives? Yes, no?
Yes.
Oh, you have heard of the story before. Madhvi, you been to all the sessions that Kashyap Swami has been talking about, I suppose. And being in a more Krishna conscious environment, it's easier to come to these questions, but in these examples. But I'll recite it anyway, just because of others, Ansali and Jay. Have you come across the 4 wives example?
No.
No? Okay, all right. So once there was a king, and he had 4 wives. You know, in the Kshatriya way, in the previous ages, they used to have multiple wives like that. And at one point in his life, he found out that he was soon to be leaving this world. He was soon to be dying, and he would have to leave this world. Time was ready for him to leave. So all of his 4 wives, he would treat them in different ways. The first wife he loved very much. That was like his true love, you know. The second wife he would take to all the engagements, and one he would go around with the most. The third wife gave the king a lot of happiness. You know, he was very, very happy with this third wife. But the fourth wife, he actually didn't really pay much attention to. He neglected, in fact. So as time went by, when the king found out that he was going to leave this world, he went to all the 4 wives and he broke the news to them that he was going to die soon and leave this world. And so, what are you going to do? He asked his wives. And so he asked his first wife, who he loved very much. He said, I'm going to leave. I'm going to leave you. So, what will you do? He said, well, I'm actually going to leave you also. I'll go away. I'll leave you. And he was like really shocked because he loved her very much. He was extremely shocked. He said, well, I loved you. I took care of you my whole life. And now all you're going to do is just leave me? She said, yes, I will leave you. As soon as you're dead, I'm going to leave you. So he was like really distraught and shocked. So he went to the second wife with whom he used to go out on all the engagements. He said, okay, well, I'm going to leave. What are you going to do? And she said, I'll marry somebody else. And he's again very, very distraught and thinking, wow, he's getting really depressed now. That I took you in all the engagements. We had so much fun together. And now you're simply just gonna marry somebody else? He was like now desperate. He says, okay, I'm gonna ask my third wife, my dear third wife, whom he gave great happiness, isn't it? What are you gonna do? And so the third wife says, well, I'm also gonna leave you. She said, I'll only come as far as the crematorium, but ultimately I can't come beyond that. I won't come with you beyond that because, you know, it's just too much for me. I won't come beyond that. I'll come to the crematorium, that's it. And then you go your way, I'll go my way. And so he's like, okay, well, that's it then, isn't it? I'll just, out of courtesy, I'll ask the fourth wife, whom he neglected completely, never paid much attention to. He said, well, what are you going to do? And the fourth wife shockingly said to him, I'll come with you. I'll be with you, no matter what. I'll always be with you, no matter what happens, wherever you go, life after life, because I love you so much and I'm completely committed to you. You may not have had the same commitment to me, but I've made a vow, I'll always be committed to you. So as the king heard these 4 statements, a great sage came. And the sage said to him in a deeper way, he said, there's deeper meanings to these 4 wives. And he said that all these 4 wives, they represent something in your life. The first wife, whom you loved very much, but who said, I'm going to leave you, what does that wife represent? So Madhvi already knows the story. So Ansali and Jay, what do you think the first wife represents in our life? Anything?
We will have to leave one day.
Yeah, but what in our life, what does that, the first wife represent?
material desires.
Okay, interesting. So material desires, we actually enjoy through the
Mind.
body, isn't it? We enjoy the material desires through the body. The mind, of course, is there, and the storehouse of pleasure is through the material senses, isn't it? So yes, the first wife represents the body, which we actually love very much, isn't it? The body that we love very much, we take much care of it, we look after it, we present it so nicely, we do practically everything for our body, isn't it? When we die, the body just leaves us. Simple. It just, we can't take it with us, we can't do anything with it. It just leaves us. So in this way, the first wife represents the body. The second wife, whom he used to take to all the engagements and show off to the world, that wife said, I'm going to marry someone else. What does that represent? What do we take with us wherever we go and show off to the world?
Ego.
Yes, okay, it's very related to ego, but what is ego?
Pride, isn't it?
So ego and pride. So ego is basically that I'm the owner of everything, isn't it? I own. So I own my house. I own my fast car, my boat, my Armani suits, my Louis Vuitton bag, whatever it might be. You are flaunting it. You're showing it around. Look, you take it to all the engagements. You show it to people. Your nice Giorgio Armani watch, your latest iPhone 16 or Samsung, whatever it is. I don't know. You know, you're showing so many things. As soon as you die, they belong to somebody else, isn't it? Your house, your Ferrari, your boat, your bank balance, all your assets, your wonderful family members, your wealthy, successful child, they will be somebody else's. So the second wife said, that represents the second wife. All of our wealth, all of our belongings. We come empty-handed and we go empty-handed. Then he went to then the third wife. The third wife gave him great happiness, but she said, I can only come with you as far as the crematorium. What does the third wife represent? Who comes to the crematorium with us? Or the cemetery if we're getting buried. Madhavi, anyone can say.
Friends and family.
Yes, our friends, our family, our acquaintances, our neighbors, our, social friends. They'll come as far as the crematorium. And we've invested so much time with them, isn't it? Our relationships, we've nurtured, we've spent time, we've got into their lifestyle, we've solved their problems, our mind has been like completely saturated with their feelings. They can only come to us up to the crematorium. And then that's it, finished. The final wife, whom he neglected very much, she said, I'll come with you life after life, after life after life. What does that wife represent? Who does that wife represent? Who comes with you life after life? Yes, Jay?
God.
Yeah, Krishna. The super soul residing with us, with the soul, always comes with us. Paramatma always is with us. Krishna has said that I will be with you no matter where you are. Wherever you go, I'll always be with you. I will never neglect you. You may neglect me. In fact, if you want to, like atheists want to really forget Krishna, forget God, he will help them forget God. He will help them forget him. Because that's their desire. He will never interfere with our free will. So like this, sometimes with all these stories and these anecdotes, we tell this because we kind of impress upon people that this is just a temporary nature of the world. World is very temporary. We pay so much attention to this type of life, but at the end of the life, it's all gone. We have to go without them. And they just say that temporary. We come into this world with nothing, we leave with nothing. And sometimes all these analogies are used to describe our family members in the scriptures itself. It is explained that just as there are many, many straws, in a river, the straws flowing in a river, they come together at some point, and then later on down the river, they'll flow apart again. They'll come again, they'll flow apart again. They'll come again, they'll flow apart again. That's how families are. They'll go in different directions. So it's like the world is like a transit lounge. We come into the transit lounge, we go together somewhere, and then we go to our different destinations after that. Different analogies are there. You see? So when all these analogies are given about family members, and then they are temporary reality, more important is spirituality. And so one shouldn't get too attached to these temporary relationships. We should, of course, do our prescribed duty, but we shouldn't get too attached. What do you think about that statement? We shouldn't get too attached to our family members or relationships. Do you think there's some truth in that statement? What do you think? I mean, it is said that naturally, the attachment is very natural because it's emotionally connected to our psychology and our being. But yes, the question, it is temporary. We have to think about our relationships with everything that we come together with as a spiritual relationship. Families, friends, acquaintances, every soul that we come in contact with, it's not by accident. Everyone in our relationship has been given to us for us to learn something deeper. We are in this family because then their behavior towards us in a certain way so that we learn something during this journey. Krishna has put us in this situation for a reason. We have to learn something for a reason. Every situation Krishna puts us to, we have to learn a lesson. So on a spiritual level, Krishna arranges this ultimately, which is meant to help us advance on our spiritual platform. These are all arrangements that have been made by Krishna. Even if they are not KC, they are there for a reason. There must be a reason why we are in a certain relationship, be it a family, friends, acquaintances, etc. Even neighbors. Sometimes we have neighbors from hell. We must learn from that scenario. And what is it? We have to go deeper within ourselves to understand what is that we're meant to learn. So the people around us are not inconsequential. They are there for a reason. They are there because Krishna has specifically arranged it in that way. And this is why, Casey, we are not detached from family, nor are we attached in that way. But we are more neutral because we understand Krishna's hand is in everything. It's like a divine arrangement. So nor are we detached or attached. We are neutral. But we understand that they are souls And so therefore we must help them to come closer to Krishna in whatever way we can. Even if they're atheists, we give them prasadam. It's the most innocent way of actually tricking them into becoming Krishna conscious. Like that. So we have to make our family very spiritual. We make Krishna as the center of our family life wherever possible. And therefore the family and everything related to it gives us the impetus to drive us towards that Krishna and not become an obstacle. It's interesting that Arjuna heard the whole Bhagavad Gita, isn't it, from Krishna? After Krishna spoke the whole Gita, Arjuna was like, okay, I'll follow your instructions. My illusion is removed. I'll fight because you told me I'll fight. I'm out of illusion. I'm going to fight. 10 days later of the war, Arjuna's son was mercilessly killed by the other side, by the Kauravas, surrounded and killed. His name was, do we know what his name was? Arjuna's son's name, who was in the battlefield?
Abhimanyu.
Abhimanyu, yes. Subhadra's and Arjuna's son, Abhimanyu, was mercilessly killed. When Arjuna found out the way he was killed and where he went running to the body and he was crying profusely. Now here is a man, Arjuna, who Krishna said to him, the wise lament not for the living nor for the dead. So how is it that same Arjuna who heard the whole philosophy is now crying for his son? This is explained by the acharyas that even though one becomes spiritually perfect, it's not that they become hard-hearted or indifferent without affection for family members, because to have affection is actually natural, part of human relationship. So we have to have relationships, we have to have affection, we have to have love. In fact, we actually get closer to Krishna through our family, through developing affection and connection to family members. When we put the effort in to actually make a connection, to actually resolve our differences and actually have a nourishing relationship, it brings us closer to Krishna, because that is the way of developing relationship and learning and making our life more nurtured and more perfect. So the attachment, affection, and relationships we have in this world is not bad, as long as it's nurtured around our Krishna conscious journey and promotes our spiritual life and brings us closer to Krishna like that. So family perspective, like I said, it's a river of names going through. Transit lounge talked about. Chitraketu story I'll talk about later on in our later sessions. And then it's definitely a divine arrangement of Krishna that we are together in this world for a reason. So the way that the whole family life and the way the society is arranged has been described in the scriptures is through 4 ashrams. Yeah, we know. We generally have this kind of a tendency anyway, although we may not be living in a temple ashram scenario, we generally have this kind of tendencies anyway. So firstly, we have the brahmachari ashram, which is like a stage of student life from 0 to 25 years of age. And then the main duties of the brahmachari is to study, to build their characters, to have some self-control. Brahmacharya. Actually, do you know what the word ashram comes from? What's the etymological decomposition of the word ashram? Anyone know? So this word ashram comes from the word ashraya. What does ashraya mean? Ashraya means shelter. I'm sure some of you knew this. Ashram means shelter. And so these are the 4 places where we can receive shelter: Brahmachari ashram, Grahastha ashram, Vanaprastha ashram, and the Sannyas ashram. Yeah. And so in a traditional system, what would happen is that someone would be a student, like I said, in the Brahmachari ashram, and they would go and study, character build, have some self-control, and so on and so forth. The next ashram after that, next stage of life, is between the years of 25 and 50, where they enter a Grahastha ashram, where they'll have family, society. They also maintain the other 3 ashrams, because the Grahastha ashram is the ashram that actually allowed to earn and accumulate wealth, which then helps and promotes the other ashrams, Brahmacharya, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas, where you sort of don't accumulate wealth. The next ashram is the Vanaprastha ashram, is like a retirement stage between 50 and 75, where you try and minimize your attachment to family life, withdraw from worldly life, you travel to holy places and pilgrimages, and you try and absorb more and more into the spiritual life. You try and study more, you try and understand what is the real purpose of this human form of life, and you try and make a connection. I remember when about 10 years ago, when I first came into Krishna consciousness and moved into the Bhaktivedanta Mana ashram and gave up my work, my career, one of my uncles said to me, wow, it's really, I think I shared this story before, it's really nice. But then he was like, well, why so early? Why are you retiring so early? I mean, you're only in your mid-40s and you are retiring early. And so he said, you have still some time. Later on, you can practice this. You have a good job, etc., like that. I said, well, who knows? Who knows when we are going to leave this body? And besides, I have missed out on Brahmacharya ashram already. I never wanted to get married. I went from a very young age, so Grahastha ashram wasn't something that I wanted to enter. And so I said, well, I've already missed out on the Brahmacharya ashram. I have to actually start from Brahmacharya, and I've already missed it, So, and then they actually accepted that like that, So it was nice. But yeah, Vanaprastha is something that we leave the family, withdraw from the worldly life, and travel to holy places. And then once we've perfected that, like once we perfected that, then we don't go back into the Grahastha ashram. For example, we go into the Grahastha ashram, we bring up our children, and then what generally happens is that the children have their children, and then we start all over again. We then bringing up their children, and then we're still stuck in the Grahastha ashram, isn't it? What about my grandchildren? My family need me. My children still need me. I need to look after my grandchildren. And you're starting the Grahastha ashram again. You're just stuck in that way. Rather, better for you, for your own spiritual journeys, is to enter the Vanaprastha ashram. Not that you completely withdraw from the family, you still support, but don't get so attached that you become completely entangled in that material life. Ultimately, they will only come to the crematorium, not beyond. What will come is your connection with Krishna. So after Vanaprastha, the Vedic system allows us to go towards the sannyas ashram, that's towards the end of life, which is complete renunciation, complete practice and sharing of spirituality. Because remember, when we share, it really becomes part of our psychology. And that paves the way for full dedication to spirituality and sharing spiritual knowledge with others, with focus, and becomes complete on Krishna consciousness. Yeah. And so that way we complete and perfect our life. In fact, it is said that when you're passing away, it is best to pass away from family members. Best to pass away in amongst devotee association. That's why if you look at sannyasis, they will never pass away around family members, because that attachment, that integral attachment, is always going to be there. And there will be always that chance that instead of thinking of Krishna at the time of death, you're thinking of your family member. Oh, look at this little new baby boy who's just arrived. They really want you. Stay with us. Stay with us. And somebody's crying in the corner, or somebody's saying, oh, yeah, the cat of this neighbor is always calling out to you, is always loving you. And then you're thinking about the cat when you're trying to like leave your body. And then what happens? Boom, you come back as the cat of your next door neighbor or your family member, or you come back as a child in your family member. And he's like, okay, here we go again. I'm taking birth again. Will I get, a chance again to perfect my life? This one life is not even the full life. In my case, definitely is not even the full life. It's like a quarter of a life or a third of a life.
It's one case where that doesn't apply. It's the story of Ajamil, isn't it?
Yes. Okay. Let's take the wonderful story of Ajamil. What's happened to Ajamil? Jay, can you elaborate?
He called out the name of his son just at the time of his death. His son was named, he named his son Narayan, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So wonderful. Yeah. Do you know the full story?
Yeah, it's in Canto 6 or something. Yeah, I
Yes,
think so.
yes.
Yeah.
So yes, Ajamil actually was a very, very learned Brahmana. Was very, very pious. And one day his father sent him to get some stuff from the market. As he was coming back, I think it was some wood from the forest. I can't remember the full story. But he saw a loving couple in the forest, and he got completely bewildered. And from that, he fell down and he wanted to also associate with the prostitute. So he didn't return home. He associated with prostitute, and from that he became like, in order to satisfy his senses and material senses, he started stealing and become a different person altogether, drugs, etc., all these things. And then so intoxication, and then so he became so notorious that eventually he married somebody, had a child, and the last child, he was out, and the last child was named by some of the traveling sages who'd come on the door to knock on the door. And then the wife said, oh, my husband's not here, and we've just had a new child. It goes, oh wow, that's a nice child. Why don't you name him Narayan? And so the lady, she was a little bit pious. She said, okay, well, these sages are saying I should name him Narayan, so we've named him Narayan. And when Ajamil comes back home, he sees the fact, because he didn't like saintly people. So then the sages are already gone, but the son was there. He was really happy to see the son, and he said, "Okay, I've named the son Narayan." He was so happy to see the son that he was calling Narayan all the time. He was very attached to the son. And so when the Yamadutas came at the time of his death, he was actually saying to his son, because the Yamadutas were very gruesome. He didn't want his son to be scared of the Yamadutas. He thought he could see the Yamadutas, but only Ajamil could see the Yamadutas. And they were trying to drag him away. And he said to his son, Narayan, Narayan, go, get out of here, Narayan, leave, Narayan, Narayan. He was like shouting Narayan. And as soon as he said that, Vishnudutas appeared, and then they're having this debate that, who is this person? Anyway, to cut a long story short, Ajamil was delivered by the Vishnudutas, and actually in the next life, he actually came back in his same life, and he perfected his life, and he went back to his original brahmachari ways. And then he had to live his life in a perfect way in order to then go back home, back to Godhead. He wasn't delivered straight away. Like that. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions in this section? So you see, we tell people, so okay, let me just look at my notes. I've covered everything. So here we see the family life is a natural part of the Vedic system for the natural human progression. And this is not any means an obstacle, by any means an obstacle to spirituality. Just that one has to learn how to engineer the right way for them, whether it's brahmacharya ashram directed to sannyas, or brahmacharya vanaprastha sannyas, or brahmacharya grahastha vanaprastha sannyas, like that. which is most people's journey. They say that a family that prays together stays together. A family that dances together in kirtan advances together. A family that sings about Krishna together clings together. These are all the buzzwords which explains that actually family can be very, very spiritual, rewarding, and a right, if done rightly, it would be the right way of actually having a nice association. So I talk about Krishna consciousness and our family lives. We'll be Krishna conscious together, but at the end, ultimately, we'll all go to Krishna and Goloka Vrindavan together. But let's face it, right? Often the reality is very different from that, isn't it? Because when someone takes up to Krishna consciousness, often there are a lot of problems with family life, isn't it? And now, just for the last few slides, couple of slides, let's look at those complications that may appear during our connections with our friends, families, neighbors, etc. like that. Okay, here's the first complication. Parents are devotees, but children are not interested. This causes arguments at home and difference in habits and lifestyle. How should parents react? What should we do? How can we overcome this complication? What should we do? When children are not interacting with us in a spiritual way, how should we encourage them? What can we do? What can be done? What do you think? Do we just tell them, you just do it? Just listen to me and do it. What do you think?
I think just introduce them to the idea, but give them the space and time that they need.
Yeah. Okay, so introduce ideas, but give them the space and time to grow those ideas within them, within their own psychology. Yeah, okay. So yeah, we should encourage and we should inspire. Definitely. Too often what happens, parents do is that they just say, they just try to impress those ideas onto them, isn't it? On their children. Don't do this, do that, don't ask too many questions. That kind of thing happens. Whereas inspiration and encouragement requires the parents to actually have a deeper understanding of the philosophy themselves, isn't it, first? Then they can actually inspire. Because children these days, they're not likely to just take it like we used to. Or at least I used to, like before when I was grown up, my grandma used to say, hey, we're going to do a yajna. I was like, yes, let's go and do a yajna. I really like doing yajna. Whereas nowadays, like, why do we chuck these things in the fire? I mean, my hands gets all dirty and I have to sit down on the floor, cross-legged, my legs hurt. I mean, why do I have to even do it? Children ask the question, why these days? So we have to be ready to ask those questions, answer those questions rather. You see, following our culture these days is very difficult, especially in the Western world. When we don't have the right examples, when we don't have the role models, when we don't have the type of outlets where we actually are able to let them explore by themselves. So therefore, we have to create an environment at home which is conducive for that exploration, which is inspiring and encouraging, like that. Yeah. And not so much focus on the how to do certain things, but focus more on the why we're doing certain things and the philosophy behind it. Because when we explain to them why, then naturally, logically, it'll make sense. Because rational, we win them over by rationality and logic based on that. And then we'll have a good chance of getting through to them. Here's the next one. One member of family gets serious about Krishna consciousness, but the relatives and parents are concerned. How should we present things to them? What should be done? How should we present things? How do we help them understand without alienating them? What should we do? Any thoughts? Okay, so one thing we should definitely avoid is get into any sort of judgment on how they do certain things. Sometimes I was, in the beginning when I first came, because my family are very pious, they have an altar, they're okay. And so when I went home, sometimes I would say, oh, no, we're not doing this right. We have to do it like this now. And we shouldn't be judgmental. Actually, best thing to do is try not to be judgmental and put things down. In fact, we should just naturally let it be. And sometimes they'll just say, why don't you offer? So nowadays, when I go to my sisters and my sister looks after our mom. She's bedridden. My mom is bedridden. So then whenever she cooks for me, she says, oh, why don't you offer on the altar? So I'll offer things on the altar. We'll say the prasadam prayers together, things like that. There's I think one brahmachari in the ashram at Bhaktivedanta Manor. He moved into ashram. His parents were really not into it, but when their grandfather passed away, they asked the son to actually recite the Gita. And the son was like, wow, you're asking me to recite Gita. And then when he did that for 13 days, they were really impressed. They were really like, wow, he's actually, learned so much. So you see, there's different ways of actually adding value. Let Krishna do his magic when it comes to family members. Often family members are not willing to listen to us, but we let others, through divine intervention, take over that. And then the last one, husband and wife get serious about Krishna consciousness, husband or wife, but the other partner is not so serious. How do we tackle this situation? What would you say if the wife or your husband came to you, or a partner came to you and said, position this dilemma? What do we do? How can we handle it? What character traits do we uphold during this scenario? Key character traits of a devotee that are required in this situation, as stated in the Gita. So one thing is tolerance, and the next thing is patience. These two character traits are extremely required in all family relationships. Tolerance and patience. And often compromises have to be made, usually from our side, because ultimately, as we know and we've said before, we've been put into this family for a reason by Krishna. We have to learn something, and we have to still nurture our Krishna consciousness. As we are nurturing and becoming more and more tolerant and patient and helpful, the family members will naturally see the difference and change in us. They will see how we now behaving. They will see how we are able to actually help them more. Krishna consciousness, even for some reason, you can't change their externals, but internally, we can influence their behavior through our actions. They can see us advancing, absolutely see us advancing. So like this, we have to realize that every situation Krishna engineers for us is meant to help us advance in Krishna consciousness. Even the situation that we think is difficult or unhelpful at the time, we know that there's an art even to use that to go back home, back to Krishna. So yeah, that's part 2, me and my home, karma-free food, sacred space, and family affairs. So that's the end of the session. We've covered those 6 points now, 6 steps so far in our study of Bhakti life. And then next week, we will start with part 3, same time, same place, where we'll cover me and my lifestyle. And discussions will include principles of freedom, spiritual culture, and the journey home. This is very, very interesting session next week. Before I end the session, I'd like to have a volunteer who will actually recap this week's session in next week within 5 minutes, if you can. So, who would like to go? Anseli or Jay?
Next week it's Govardhan Puja, isn't it? Next Saturday. So
Sorry, say again? You're very
It's-
faint.
it's Govardhan Puja next week, isn't it? Next Saturday.
Yeah, it's Govardhan Puja, but that's
So
all day.
I probably might. I don't think I'm going to be
Are you not going to be able to join?
online next week. I'll probably miss next week.
You can't join next week?
Yeah, because there'll be a puja at our temple in Warsaw.
Okay.
So
All right.
I'll
No
probably
problem.
miss
You can
next
maybe
week.
catch up on the recording.
Yeah, but I won't be able, I'll probably won't be here next week. So yeah, I'll catch up on the recording. Yeah, so I won't be able, probably won't be able to do it. Well, if I'm here, I won't be able to do the
Okay, no problem.
next week.
So Anseli, would you like to recap this week's session?
I don't think I can.
You can't?
No.
Okay. All right. Madhvi, would you like to do it again?
I would love to, but I'm actually trying to, serve at the temple for Govardhan Puja because they are cooking a Nepali meal.
Oh, okay.
They need quite a few hands.
Okay.
So I'm trying to get around there on Saturday.
Okay. So you can't join the session next week either.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
It depends whether I will go or not, but yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. So in that case, I mean, we'll ask on the group whether devotees want to have a break next week because of Govardhan Puja. And then
That's a good idea.
then we will change our schedule. We skip a section next week and we will have the following two sessions. We extend the session at the another Saturday. Is that okay?
Yeah, I was just going to suggest that. Yeah. 'cause-
Okay, yeah, sure. Sure, we can do that. Let me just stop recording for now.